Welcome back to 1010's podcast with Michael and Robbie, and no Adam this week.
No Adam.
I think he alluded to it in previous episodes, but he's been working quite a bit because we had some storm damage in Iowa due to some tornadoes, and he deals with fiber and internet stuff. But he's trying to restore services to people in Iowa who don't have internet. It's kind of important in this day and age, just
kind of a necessity now.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. But we do have Andrew Rains. I suppose he's not here in the studio with us. He's on the phone, but I suppose he is our third host for today. He's with Apex Pro, specifically in marketing and sales, kind of a little bit of everything. But Andrew, we appreciate you joining us this week.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Coming all the way from Alabama, so I'm just yelling really loudly so that I can be heard on your
works out perfectly.
Good enough for us.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome.
We were just talking about before we started the show. You had used a VR setup for iRacing.
Yeah. So like a week ago, it's crazy. A couple of buddies of mine have a chump car, so we're running an E36 BMW at the 24 hours race at VIR next weekend. And I went over to one of their houses to do a kind of prep, do some sim time, and got on the VR setup, and it totally blew my mind. So I don't know how many people out there have had the chance to do that, but total mind, it just messes with your mind. Like I went into turn one, leaving pit lane at VIR, and when I hit the brake pedal, I got nervous like I would on cold tires in a race car. Did I brake early enough? It was crazy.
We're looking at a picture of it. Is that on iRacing site or where is that?
I don't know. I just Googled iRacing.
It's just a Google. VR. It's basically it's a screen. Is he wearing an Oculus?
Yeah, he's using the Oculus from the PlayStation.
So he's got a screen, I assume, so other people can watch what he's doing, but he's got an Oculus on to do the VR portion of it. Was that your experience with it? Andrew, did we lose you?
I still got you, sort of.
Sort
Every
of?
now and then.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, now I got you.
Okay. Did you use an Oculus Rift for your VR experience on iRacing?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was an Oculus. It was crazy because you have to actually turn your head. When you're driving on a track and you come, it's like a 90-degree corner. You physically turn your head, in the direction that the track goes. And I wasn't doing that, so I kept just turn forward VIR or a couple other corners, just kept totally missing the apex and blowing the corner. And it's because I didn't realize I could actually turn my head and I was in a real car. So it was this weird blend of almost too much reality for being stationary in a room. It was crazy.
Does it give you a full 360 view, or is it kind of cut out at a certain point? 360?
Everything. So we were in the MX-5 and I could see the sky through if you looked straight up.
Wow.
Yeah. And the transmission tunnel, you could see all the way behind you. It was pretty crazy. I had a interesting experience. It took me a while to kind of get used to it. I haven't kept up my iRacing habit over the past year and a half or so.
Is your depth perception better with an Oculus? I know when I'm doing Gran Turismo on my simulator without an Oculus, when I don't do it for a while and then come back, I have a really hard time with depth perception right off the bat. I'm just curious if the VR makes it better or worse.
It honestly was still I guess the best way to describe it is it still felt the same. There was just an extra element of realism, but the way I was perceiving the brake markers and the different visuals of the track were still pretty much the same as they normally would be with the screen.
I gotcha.
But yeah, so it didn't really affect it that much, but the depth perception, but it definitely was super crazy. I could see how people could become totally obsessed with that and live in that world. It was cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a reality, but it's not. You know what I mean? It's lacking some real fundamental issues, that they need to address. How do you actually create depth in a realm where the screen is literally right in front of your eyes, because your eyes are not changing, right, to look at that screen. So, and you can do stuff like have an actual focal point built into the programming, so that you kind of visualize a focal point, but you can't adjust that with your mind. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's a pretty massive hurdle to try to get over before you make VR, like reality.
Right. Every time I see one of those setups, I'm ready to just spend all the money and do it, but man, I just can't.
Do you think
I want to.
Do you think it was worth it, Andrew?
If I was like really serious, and if I was still, I guess, competing professionally, like racing professionally on a regular basis and that sort of thing, honestly, it probably would be, because the like the transfer of like how you physically drive the car, it adds that extra element of like turning your head and like preparing yourself for the next like set of corners. And like I could see how even if you're like drifting or autocrossing or something like that, it would be really applicable, because you kind of coordinate that extra element of the like turning. Because when I instruct people, I spend a lot of time on the skid pad. I work for Porsche at Barber Motorsports Park for the Porsche track experience, and we do a lot of work like that, and you just like focus on getting people to turn their head. And so the VR like was really nice for that, which I've never experienced that before, which I could imagine would make it easier to translate into driving a real car. But me personally, I'm starting like running a small growing business and that sort of thing, probably not. But for someone that makes reasonable money and has some to spend, I think that's probably a pretty good investment.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So you've had an interesting pro motorsports career. You started out, fairly young, probably when a lot of us started, kind of around the end of high school, moving out of college. You started with autocross, didn't you?
Yeah, actually, my buddy that I'm still friends with now, I see him at the track all the time. He had a Civic, like an automatic Civic, and I went out and did an autocross with him and went faster than him in the car. I'm sure he'll appreciate hearing that on my first day there. And I was like, you know what? I should probably do this. So that kind of set the hook.
Did you have,
after that?
But you had some family influence in racing too.
Yeah, my dad raced when I was really young. So first car I remember seeing was his 944 Turbo. And I remember hearing like, I didn't know what it was at the time when I was 4 or 5 years old, but like just the kind of raspy, burbly exhaust note and the way the turbo would spool up and stuff from the time so I was pretty much hopeless, from day one because of that influence. And he kind of got involved. His bank, actually, he's a banker. The bank he worked for sponsored a couple of cars at Barber Motorsports Park. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, just to like preface the whole thing. So we got Alabama and Iowa here. We're really like the creme de la creme of the states as far as reputation goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. But people don't know that it's awesome here, so don't tell them that Birmingham's cool. But yeah, so I was kind of hopeless as far as getting involved with motorsports. It just kind of became a natural, like, well, I guess this is life.
So you autocrossed with your buddy. He had a Civic. Did you at that point decide that you had to buy a race car for yourself?
Sort of. So I'm not the kind of person that does anything halfway. So like I got into it and I liked it, and I was like, yeah, this is something I have to do. So I basically made a deal with my dad that if I got a scholarship to college and got a 4.0 my senior year of high school, we would buy like a project car, which we didn't really define. It was like quote unquote project car. And we ended up with two, actually, because you always have to get two. Had two Alfa Romeo GTVs, a 72 and a 74. One was race prepped and one was a street car. And that's what I quickly learned about rust and how reliable Italian things are. And
yeah, exactly.
From there. Yeah.
Living that same lifestyle that I did for a while.
You have a 124, right?
Yeah, I've got a 124, which has actually been
cool.
A great car. We've had several 124s over the course of my racing career, and a lot of them don't exist anymore because they've been crushed. So it's kind of a case of, trying to save one by killing 5 other ones sort of thing. We've got one that's in pieces at the moment that we're getting a motor.
That's crazy. So did you do like Webers and stuff?
Yeah, so I've got dual Webers on the one that I race. For a while I had a single Weber, but I was having some fueling issues. It was actually a weird scenario. So it'd be off camber corners. For some reason that would like close the floats in the carburetor, and you were done. It would shut the engine down. So that was bad. So then I went to a dual Weber setup, and to be honest with you, I really haven't had any problems with it at all. It's been excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That thing sounds crazy. Webers are the way to go.
It sounds good. I drove it on the street the other day because I haven't raced it a ton because I've kind of gotten out of autocross and just really haven't done any track day stuff with it because I've been working on the RX-7, the drift car, and it's a slow car. You know, it's probably slow like a Miata's slow, but it really likes just being beat to death, which is okay on, you know, like a county highway, because you're not endangering anybody by, you know, by driving it, you know, by flooring it. Whereas if you have a GTR or something like that and you're driving around at that level, you're doing 110 miles an hour. It's dangerous. So, but yeah, I had a really good experience with mine.
Those are such like beautiful little cars too. My one of my roommates in college had a 124, and he was not the kind of guy to like really take great care of stuff, because I ended up riding one of his dirt bikes at one point, and I was like, oh, I bet his 124 is in about the same state of repair as this old Husqvarna dirt bike, which was not good, like blowing stuff like liquid out of the exhaust and all sorts of stuff. But they're such cool cars. But my Alpha had a it was crazy. The race car still had the mechanical injection. It was a GTV Iniezione, which was injection, and had a terrible mechanical injection system. But this thing had been set up for SCCA ITB, which meant you couldn't go to the Weber setup. So we had this basically a mixture control knob out of a Cessna 172, like out of an airplane, to lean and enrichen the fuel mixture on the dash.
That's hilarious.
It was the craziest thing.
You sent that note to me, and I was like, how could they have used that? Because actually on my car before, so I don't have choke at all now in my car. Cool. I don't know if those dual Webers ever had choke, to be honest. But some of the carburetors that we had on that car did, and we had something that would kind of look like a Cessna 172, you know, fuel trim knob that you would slide in and out, you know, to physically move that choke closed. So yeah, it's in that. I've never heard of that before, but that's pretty cool. I dig that. It's
wild. It'd be like at wide open throttle, and my crew chief, that's a good friend of mine forever ago. Like, I have tons of really interesting stories about him. But Lee Hurley, he used to build race cars for the Allison brothers in NASCAR. He was kind of part of the Alabama gang back in the day, in the 70s when that was a thing. And he built this car, and you know, the thing, you would go out and run it pretty rich just to get it to idle, and you could lean it out so much while you were on the track that it wouldn't idle when you came back in the pits, but it would make like 20 more horsepower.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so, but I had to do it at wide open throttle, and you couldn't reach the knob while you were strapped in. So you had to loosen up. I'd be on the backstretch at Road Atlanta with my foot pinned to the floor, loosening up my belts, letting the car just like tram line down the backstretch, trying to lean out the mixture and read the EGT gauges. And he would ask me on the radio, "You run at 1400 yet?" You know, like want to know the temperature of the exhaust gas. I'm like, man, I'm just trying to stay alive.
It's super safe, especially in a 40-year-old Italian car.
Yeah. There's a loose formation of parts flying in the same direction. It wasn't really one cohesive car.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you got the rear end, and yeah, but it was an awesome car, man. I had a great experience with it. It was like a great way to get into it and learn, because I broke everything on the car and had to learn either how to fix it or that I wasn't capable of fixing it, or you know, I learned something from it.
Yeah.
So it was cool.
It's interesting to hear somebody else have that experience, because as a car, they're not very good, you know, objectively as a object that's supposed to take you from point A to point B. Italian cars are fairly poor at that. But if you can put them together, they can make some really rewarding race cars. Yeah. There's a lot to love about them. They're just a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm sure your car's this way. It's like just super rewarding to drive. Like the emotional, like the thing that a lot of modern cars miss, I guess, is that like emotional connection, which is like, you know, depending on the temperature, the car is going to make different noises and like smell different. And like, you don't get that with modern cars, but a 70s like Italian sports car, that's like, you have to be attuned to that stuff or something could go wrong. And you're going to have some like U-joints in the drive shaft go out if you can't sense the right vibration or something, you know, and fix it in time or whatever. So that definitely helped me, because now, like running on this endurance team, I drove our car like a while ago during like a test day, and I came back in, I was like, I think the throwout bearing's going out. And they're like, what? That's really specific. How do you know that? I was like, I don't know. That's just what I think. And they got it apart and sent me a picture of the bearing. They were like, how did you know? That's exactly what happened. I was like, I don't know. I drove an Alpha. It happened.
You have to pay attention to those things. Yeah. It trained your mind in a different way, you know, than driving a modern car may have.
Yeah. absolutely. Yeah. So I'm like the exact opposite of like a lot of people I ended up racing against that came up with like kind of barely knew how to drive an H pattern on the racetrack. Like I came from like I had to double clutch downshift the first time I drove my Alpha on track. So it's like a total opposite end of the spectrum approach, but I definitely appreciate it. It's very, very helpful.
So you raced Formula SAE for a while, or I guess you were in the program, obviously, so you had to do the whole experience.
The whole deal. Yeah. So we built the car, and I ended up being the team leader, the team captain, even though I was a business. So like, yeah, I do marketing and sales now, and I have a marketing degree. So I still don't really know the first thing about the engineering process, really more than what I need to know from like a marketing and sales perspective. But I ended up, like, just because of my passion for race cars and stuff, ended up learning kind of the, like, you know, how you go through the design process and building the car from the ground up, which is, again, like another experience. Like I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing with Apex now if I hadn't had that experience, because now I have a baseline kind of understanding of like vehicle dynamics and tires and suspension and stuff like that. So yeah, so I was just basically a team member and drove the car because I had I had experience driving my very refined Alfa Romeo race car. Yeah.
Was there an incident with that car?
Yeah, there was. It was the first time that I hit on a nurse in the hospital, actually.
The first
So
time.
so what you're telling me is that you made a positive out of a negative, basically.
Yeah. So the story is really juicy because it basically the exhaust bung came off that. So the car, if you can just imagine this, I'm sitting in this carbon tub built by like 10, 22-year-old guys in a shop on campus at Auburn University. And basically we built the car so that the engine, where the exhaust came out of this Yamaha R6 power plant, was directly up against my back, and the engine was actually cradled in the monocoque chassis. So it was a stress member of the chassis, which meant we could take off like 20 pounds of steel, suspension, stuff like that. And so the exhaust bung actually popped off. So the headers started, like one of the headers fell off because they're all like independently welded. It was this intricate, exhaust system. And so basically there was like a 1,400 degree flame shooting straight into the small of my back, just with carbon fiber in between. And yeah, it was wild.
So was there anything else to the hospital story? You just kind of stopped.
Kind of let that open-ended.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, well, we would have won the competition overall, the race event, Formula SAE Lincoln. This is in Lincoln, Nebraska. And we're up there like where they do nationals for autocross. And we came like within a quarter of a lap of finishing the endurance event, and that was when my back like had been like just like scorched. And so I remember looking at the temperature gauge on the dash, and I kept radioing in like the car's not overheating, but I'm really hot. Like I'm really effing hot, and just like kept saying that over and over again. I had to cycle the power on the car to keep it running. And I got out, and somebody else looked at my back. I pulled my suit down and looked at my back, and they're like, "Oh, dude, I think you have a problem. Like, there's a welt, like a massive welt in the middle of your back." And like I had just like adrenaline, I didn't know. So I ended up going to the ambulance, and they looked at me and they're like, "Yeah, you should. Like, we're not going to take you to the hospital because we don't want to charge. Like, you don't want to deal with that on your insurance, but you should go to the emergency room." Like it's not super sensitive that we have to take you there, but you should go. So I ended up going, and that was when I was sitting on like the examination table with my shirt off, and this nurse kept walking by, and I kept trying to kind of make eye contact with her, and I kind of had like that James Hunt like scene from Rush replaying in my mind. That movie would have come out like 6 months earlier, and I was like, "Oh, I'm totally doing that."
That's Robbie's favorite movie.
It is. It's a great scene.
It's a great scene. It didn't work out that way. It doesn't work that way.
Never does.
Unfortunately, none of us are James Hunt, I think, ultimately is the problem.
That smooth. Never been that smooth.
Yeah, well, I listened to your episode with Freddie Hunt, so maybe he could give us some lessons. But yeah,
I'm sure he could.
Didn't have that gift.
That could be a whole nother episode. Just
It could be.
Freddie Hunt teaches us how to pick up girls.
That's that side podcast we've been threatening to start. That's related to all other things.
It's everything but cars.
Yeah,
Prepare to be offended.
because this is 40% cars at best. So we just figured maybe we could split that off, make it a different podcast, and then this might actually be about cars at some point.
Nobody wants that.
I don't think anybody
I would listen to that.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. I think that would be more popular.
Yeah, we'd be done with the podcast.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. So you've done autocross, you did Formula SAE, you raced the Alphas. Obviously you've had a pro level career. So how did you transition into that?
Yeah, so I actually was still pretty active at Formula SAE. I did that for like 3 or 4 years while I was in college, and was kind of ready to like not committed. Not have my entire life committed to doing Formula, and I wanted kind of a year to be a college student, because it's kind of for anyone out there that's listening that's involved in Formula SAE, they know what I'm talking about. But it's not technically a fraternity, but it's basically, like there's elements of like the social fraternity aspect of it, but it's also just like a really intense project, and you learn so much from it. It's kind of an addiction, so just your whole life kind of starts to center around it. So I had met some people through Formula SAE. So I worked on the pit crew for APR Motorsport. They used to run, they ran an Audi R8 in Grand Am, and they had a Continental Tire team for a couple of years. They ran like Volkswagens.
Oh, that's goapr.com or whatever. They do the tuning. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They're big. They're based in Opelika, Alabama. They're a big aftermarket parts company for Volkswagen, Audi, VW Auto Group stuff. And we kind of, used some of their resources for the Formula team. They would do like SLA, 3D printed stuff for us, and we would use their dyno and other stuff like that. So got to know those guys, and worked as part of the pit crew for a year or so, and then ended up actually when they liquidated their race team, they like dropped everything, got out of racing super quick. I went up to see what all they had, because I was running so I graduated from the Alpha to a late model stock car, of all things, a road course stock car. Because I'm from Alabama, and that's like
it's available
down here.
They're everywhere.
So that's what I was doing.
They're very available here too.
Oh,
I mean, if that's not a stock car, but like a tube chassis style car. We
sprint cars, cars.
We build Des Moines. They build a lot of them because of Boone. What do they call that raceway in Boone?
Boone Speedway.
Is it Boone Speedway?
That's wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, it's a part of race culture that we keep threatening to check out, and then we don't.
Yeah,
we need to.
So anyway, we understand the tube chassis.
Yeah. So that was like a whole year of my life dedicated to learning stock car setup. But the stock car that I had, actually, a guy messaged me today. The guy that I sold it to a guy, and then the guy that messaged me today actually bought it from this guy. And he's like, "Hey, well, look what I ended up with." But it was a 2004 Ford Taurus body on a wide set late model road course chassis. So it was never built to be a left-hander. It was a road course car, and it was 2,800 pounds. So it was like under 3,000 with me in it, and huge Hoosier slicks and 500 horsepower. And it handled like on new tires, it handled like a Miata. I mean, it like a tight corner, like just at the apex of the corner, you could just slap the throttle to the floor and it would hook up. It was absurdly fun, and just like a 4-speed crash box, no clutch, so left foot braking, the whole shebang. It was a total. The first I went to Daytona, because Daytona is only like an 8 or 9 hour drive from Birmingham, so it's totally doable. And we ran a couple weekends at Daytona, and I had like that Days of Thunder moment, getting out onto the bank, like oh my god, this is awesome. It was so anybody that's listening, or like if you guys have even ventured down that path, if anyone asks you like how that world looks, I guess it's really like it was the most affordable race car that I owned, more so than the Alpha, because it never broke. It was just like you can get everything from Jegs and Summit, and it's all really affordable, and it makes a ton of power, and it was lightweight, and it handled good. And once you kind of figure out the intricacies of the chassis, and it's like driving a semi truck with the steering. Like you might as well have a tennis ball on it and like rotate it around. After you figure that out, it's tons of fun.
Was it just a small block Ford?
Yeah. It was a 363 small block Ford, revved to 6,500 RPM. Probably made 420 horsepower at the wheels, and weighed 2,800 pounds without driver. So it would go pretty good. It was always fun, because I started out doing track days with the Porsche Club, because that was one of the strongest groups down here at the time, and knew some people that did events with them. So I ran the stock car with the Porsche Club every now and then. And those guys they tried to like put me in my own group. I guess it wasn't a lot of fun when like this, like absurdly loud, unmuffled stock car just comes storming past your pristine 911 on the front stretch at Barber. That's probably not.
Owning a Porsche is, kind of like a lifestyle. It's a club, and that is an affront to their, that's an affront to their lifestyle. How they like to do things. You know what I mean? Not that I think so. Not that I don't want a Porsche. I'm just saying, like it's it's a different realm.
Yeah, and they were all kind of, like at first they're like, oh, whoa, that's that. Because, of course, I put on like the entrant thing, when you register for the event, I put 2004 Ford Taurus. That's what it is.
You're that guy that Hayward Wagner was talking about last week.
Yep.
Yeah, that was my shtick. But eventually, so I'm a Porsche Club member now. I own a 944 now, and I work for Porsche, so I'm obviously I like the brand.
You're a Porsche guy.
They were kind of like you were saying at first. They're like, "Whoa, that's not us. That's not how we do it." And eventually, by the end of the weekend, they're like, "That thing's pretty cool."
How do you like your 944 turbo?
Oh, geez, we're going down this path.
Yeah,
we never talked to anybody about Porsches before. And my secret affinity for Porsches. It's come up slightly before, but
it's just not a Porsche podcast.
It is now.
Well, yeah. I think you probably heard us say on previous shows that like 80% of car podcasts are Porsche podcasts. So we've made
beat them. Join them.
We've made not a real hard effort, but we've kind of made an effort to avoid Porsche.
Yeah.
Just because we don't want to be like you don't want to. It's one of those things where you literally don't want to be like everybody else because what's the point of having?
We've already heard this from those guys.
Right, yeah. So why don't you give a different perspective on a different brand or something?
It could be the Miata podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
There's none of those.
It's either 911s or Miatas. There's no in between.
Yeah. So anyway, I would like to know about the 944 turbo.
Yeah. So, the cool thing about the transaxle Porsches, the 924, the 944, 968, 928, is that they're kind of like they were supposed to replace the 911 back in the day. So, like a lot of like every now and then I'll see like a 911 on the road and I'll try and wave at them, and they just like, I don't know what that thing is. So I feel like it's kind of almost more of an insult. It's probably insults the pure pure Porsche guys more to talk about 944s than anything else. So maybe that's a good strategy, but it's just an awesome car. I guess there's a reason people always end up talking about Porsches, and it kind of like I never really drove them on track until a couple years ago, and so I really didn't get it. I was like, I like the cars because who doesn't like the way a 911 looks, obviously, but I didn't really it didn't quite compute. And now that I've owned a couple of them and I drive the cars on the track, I'm kind of like, oh, there's a reason. I get it. It's not just like marketing. Well, it is, but it's not. The thing that strikes me about my cars is a 170,000 mile car, and I don't really know that much about the ownership history, and it has the best. When you close the door, the thing sounds like it is built of like a solid block of billet aluminum. Like it's so solid, and it gives you confidence. That gives you confidence in the whole car. You're like, yeah, I drive the same across the country. I'm not worried about it. Yeah, and it's got a big turbo on it. It's the Turbo S, so it goes in a straight line, and it doesn't. I drive it back and forth to Atlanta all the time. It's a good car.
Stock or is it modified?
It's relatively stock. So the cool thing about the 944 turbo is all you have to do to get 50 more horsepower is slap a chip in the fuel computer, and it had a chip in it, so it was making 300 pound-feet of torque on a completely stock car that originally made 250 pound-feet of torque, from the factory 180,000 miles ago and 30 years ago. Was
that so on the 944 in the Turbo S, is that the 3-liter?
It's a 2.5 liter still.
Okay.
But it has forged. Of course, now I'm going into like Porsche guy spiel. I know way too much about it.
That's okay. I still have more questions about displacement, so continue.
Yeah, it's got forged rods and like the bottom end's beefed up, and the Turbo S is pretty cool because it's got like additional seam welding on the chassis and big roll bars, adjustable shocks all around. All from the factory limited slip. It's got hardened first and second gear, transmission cooler. So it's like the base 944 turbo didn't have any of that stuff. So it's like a bump above, but the turbo lag is real. It's like really, really real, which I think is cool. But
yeah, I was gonna say, is that really a bad thing? I mean, it's an 80s car, so what? Yeah, you know, you kind of come to expect that. Yeah.
I need a mustache and like a jean jacket and
why not? Yeah. Double denim.
Just live that.
Just
life.
Double down on the denim. Absolutely. Yeah. Can you grow a mustache? Because that might be a good look. Just rock it the whole time.
I'll buy a fake one if I can't. I'll just get the whole thing going because I think that people would expect that when they see me, because it's like the car is old enough now. People don't know what it is sometimes. Like if they do, they're like, "Oh man, that's cool," and if they don't, they're like, "Why is that car like so much smaller than everything else on the road and like looks like a Back to the Future movie?" You know, it's like no one gets it. It does look. I think that's probably why. Like honestly, and it's the same thing for people that like if you daily a Miata or like a 240 SX or like the brave souls out there that drive like 240Zs and stuff on the road. It's like you park it in a parking lot with all the other cars and you walk away looking at it and you're like, yeah, that's right. That's it doesn't look like everything else looks like a toaster compared to it.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that the other day. I didn't really appreciate 90s cars when I was growing up, but I think that general appreciation for 90s, late 80s, early 90s cars is really going to come around and it's going to reach its peak, because I don't know that as far as like design, there were some really fantastic designs. There wasn't a lot of crash safety specifications at that point, so like your A-pillars are really thin. You got a lot of glass. There's not a lot of protection in your doors. The car's pretty light. Just for the sake of having a race car or a fast car, it's a great place to start. And you still had a lot of chassis technology that had been developed at that point. You have a lot of engine options. There's a lot of really cool front engine, rear wheel drive cars during that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Robbie, don't you have a 240 SX?
Yeah, I got a 95 240.
Sweet.
So I totally understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
Well, I get in the RX-7 and I look at how small the A-pillars are, and I'm like, this makes a great race car. It probably makes a terrible car.
I don't want to crash this without a cage.
With no roll cage, yeah, it makes a terrible car. I don't know that I'd want to drive it around, on the interstate a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I just get in and I go, man, there's nothing in here that doesn't need to be in here. And I think that's the appeal of it.
Right, it's simple.
Our RX-7s are such like fantastic cars too. I mean, especially I'm a big fan of the early ones. I guess like yours.
Yeah, the FB or the FC.
Yeah. What was the first one? Was it the FB or the FC was the first one that they did the turbo setup on?
I don't think there was a turbo FB. I think the FC was, because they called them the turbo. Well, maybe there was. I don't know why they ever called them turbo 2s. Someone that's more versed in rotaries could tell us why. But the FC Turbo 2, I think is just a really cool car.
I'm trying to, it's the FC. So where I ran my race team out of is kind of like a DIY storage garage here in downtown Birmingham, called Alabama Gearheads. And there is a pristine, completely unmodified turbo FC RX-7 in there. Like straight out of, it was like a time machine. And that car was so cool. I just remember standing there just staring at it. And it has the same exact silhouette as the 944. Like it's like Mazda and Porsche copied each other.
Yeah, that front end is very similar.
Well, I think if you look up where the styling for the FC came from, I think that they admit that they stole some of it from Porsche. Because it's similar, but quite a bit different than the FB. If you really start to look at it, as far as how the FB is kind of, in some ways, oval shaped. If you look at it, your side skirts basically tuck in at the bottom. You kind of get kind of this oval passenger compartment. The FC is very slab sided. It's a wedge. It's very 944, 924 looking. So yeah, I think that, or maybe they just called it the poor man's 944. I'm not sure, but it looks very similar. There's no doubt.
And then the FB is like the Tokyo Drift, totally like those are cool too. I've always loved rotaries, so I kind of have that like affinity for like the odd, the super strange. Like that's kind of why I ended up with the Turbo S, is I was like, I can't just have, like, I had a base 944 before that I kind of happened into. I didn't really intend to buy it, and it was like a base, like, I mean, $3,000 car, but it ran and it was great. And weighed 2,600 pounds, had no power steering. It was awesome. So I was like, okay, I guess this is a cool world to live in. And like, I kind of fell in love with RX-7s again, having 944s, because it's like the Japanese version with a less reliable motor.
It's a JDM Porsche. It's sweet.
Yeah. I thought that was the big plus of 944s is like the mechanic, like, and most Porsches in general, which is like another painfully annoying thing, is that like the mechanicals are just like really good. Like they just last for the most part. Like there's a couple models that here and there have some issues like everything, but it's like my car's never been rebuilt and it's probably been running way more power than it was intended to its whole life, and it just still kind of runs. And that's the cool thing about it, probably, is I kind of have it, but the major downside is that it is very expensive for like weird stuff. Like the weird stuff that goes wrong or that you have to replace is just like, it's hard to find, and it's stupid expensive. Mm-hmm. And then finding someone to work on it's not as easy as a Japanese car. But if you can live with that, then it's a great choice.
Wasn't the 944, and maybe this has changed, but I think that was the largest displacement inline 4-cylinder engine, maybe in like general production, that 3-liter?
Yeah, the 3-liter in the S2, and the 968 also used that motor. Yeah, it's a 3-liter 4-cylinder.
Yeah, that's a huge displacement engine for 4 cylinders.
Yeah, those are, a lot of people turbo those. It's actually the 968 one had this like fancy valve timing, early like variable valve timing setup called like Vario Cam or something super German. So like, yes, we put this on the motor, and then people just like put big boost in them and that sort of thing. They're cool. It's like the Japanese car of Porsches. It's like, that you never see a stock one. They all have like wings and suspension and everything, and they're I guess they're like on a factor of 10 more affordable than most 911 stuff, but they're still German sports cars.
Yeah, no, I get the appeal totally. I've looked at them. Never bought one, but I've looked.
Yeah,
Don't go too far down that slippery slope.
Well, yeah, no,
it's dangerous.
Thankfully, I just bought another daily because I was having that moment where I was like, you could totally daily a 911, right? And I was having that moment where I was seriously thinking about it.
You're in the wrong state for that, man.
I know, it sucks. I need to move to Alabama, apparently, because it's nice there, and you can daily Porsches.
Win-win.
Yeah.
I guess. Yet another Porsche podcast out there for everyone to listen to.
Exactly. I don't know if it's like a normal thing to daily. Like, I was trying to buy a blow off, or not a blow off. I have a wastegate. My wastegate shot. I'm buying another wastegate, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you need to send us your core so we can rebuild your old wastegate." And I was like, "No, it's my car." And they're like, "Yeah, send us your core." And I was like, "No, I can't. I need to drive it to work and things." And they're like,
you don't understand.
It's your daily car. And they're like, "It's a 944. It's a 30-year-old car." I was like, "Yeah, whatever."
Listen, I'm not that far out in the weeds. All I'm saying is, people have made more questionable automotive decisions than I have.
Yes.
As long as there's somebody that's more questionable than you, then
you're totally fine. It's justifiable behavior.
I made a bad choice, but have you seen what he did?
Yeah, look at all the money he spent on this thing. That's ridiculous.
Just deflect.
Yep, and then move on. Yeah. Change the subject.
Brilliant.
Talk about the weather.
Yeah, figure it out. Yeah.
So did you race in World Challenge, or were you on the team that built that car?
Yeah, so I raced in World Challenge.
Okay.
Yeah, so after I had the late model stock car experience and went to Daytona International Speedway, I sold the stock car. We won like a regional championship in it, so there was some momentum, for what it's worth. Like not very much, but hey, you got to have something to tell yourself you know what you're doing. And I'd kind of learned the logistics because like I couldn't afford. So like I had one guy, Lee Hurley, who I mentioned, who was the NASCAR guy, was kind of the mechanic, and he kind of was the guy around that knew what he was doing. And pretty much other than that, I would hire a buddy or two and like pay him in beer and like a little bit of cash to help me work on the car. And then I would load everything up, and Lee would come to the track with us for free as long as I used him to like rebuild the motor and do stuff like that. And so since I was still a full-time college student and my dad is as big into racing as I am, we kind of had this pact that like while I was in college, he would help me as much as he could because he knew that I wasn't a complete idiot, I guess, and that I wasn't going to be a paid professional, career race car driver, but that something positive would come out of it. So he kind of stuck it out with me for a little while, and then we started doing some stuff to activate with some sponsors at events. We used to raise money and give people ride-alongs, and people would write us a check for the exact amount of a set of tires, and we'd let them draw pictures on the tires with tire chalk and stuff like that. And so we kind of got creative and raised a little bit of money, and that turned into, hey, we should buy APR Motorsports X stuff, all their old race stuff, 2 cars, a spare chassis, all these spares. So we bought 2 Volkswagen GTIs and a Jetta chassis that had been totaled at Watkins Glen. I was actually on their team when that happened. And then it had been put back together, and they were going to turn it into some crazy 9-second drag car. But we ended up getting all that stuff and went racing myself and a friend of mine, raised some money and raced those cars in World Challenge in 2015, I guess. But total grassroots effort. It was a really cool experience. And then from there, I ended up selling those cars and building a Honda Accord for 2016, and ran that in 16 and part of last year, and then just recently sold it. So wasn't that long ago.
No, not at all. We've got a picture of it pulled up here. It's a pretty cool looking build.
The Accord.
Yeah.
Yeah, that car was awesome. And so I don't know if you guys know Jack Baruth with Road and Track.
No, it's not ringing any bells.
No.
So Jack rides for Road and Track, but he owns that car now.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so if you look at some Road and Track articles, he'll there's pictures of it and stuff, and it's kind of cool because it's way more in the public eye than it ever could have possibly have been when I owned it. And he had some track records with it now at Mid Ohio and stuff like that. But he traded me. So I couldn't get money for the car. I advertised for 8 months and was just pay me something in cash, to buy this race car, because it's no one builds Honda Accords into race cars. I'm this is a Honda Accord that will this will beat a GT3 RS around most road courses, or a Corvette C6 Z06. This is a stupid fast Honda Accord with 275 Pirelli slicks on it and aero and just crazy stuff. And so Jack called me and was hey, I don't have money, but I have a C5 Corvette. Do you think that's in the ballpark? And I was sure. And he's oh yeah, it belonged to Matt Farah.
So you had Matt Farah's C5 Corvette?
Yeah, I just sold it. It's actually still in my shop. I did a couple burnouts in it the other day. I hope the guy who's bought it from me is listening.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
that's a hell of a car.
What it was worth. Yeah.
I'm surprised. Well, so Matt didn't want to sell that car. He said he was never going to sell it, and then he must have sold it to him because that was only a year or two ago. Yeah,
I think Jack bought it in late 2016, early 2017.
Yeah, because he was swearing up and down, because it was his high school. He bought it right out of high school. I'm never going to sell it. It's never going to go anywhere. And then bam, all of a sudden it was gone. And everybody was what the hell? And he's well, shit happens. You move on,
Yeah,
I get it. He had a lot of stuff Corvette for a while. Yeah, it's a C5 Corvette, and he had a lot of stuff there for a while.
Yeah,
and he lost some storage space at one point. So
totally understandable.
I get it. You can't keep stuff forever. And
yeah, he took immaculate care of that car. I'm not a Corvette guy by any stretch of the imagination. I hadn't had one. Out of the seems 50 cars I've owned, I've never had one. So that was my first experience. I was okay, prepped Honda Accord World Challenge touring car equals very nice C5 Corvette. I guess that's approximately the same value. He took this car. It was really funny when I first got it. I parked it in the shop, and a good friend of mine has the same exact car. It's a '98 C5 red Corvette, base Corvette, and he just does track based and stuff in it, and it's got a supercharger on it and all sorts of crazy stuff. But they're the same exact paint code. But Matt's car looked like it was a completely different shade of red. It was immaculate, and this other car was complete garbage, burnt orange. It was
the
hilarious.
Pigment in the paint had kind of started to dissipate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was wild. It was like they were like 10 VIN numbers apart, or something like that. And so I went back and watched all of Matt's videos on it and was like, yeah, he took really good care of this car. And of course, every part that he put on it was, probably a comped part from a company that was getting some promo or something like that. But of course, it's got like the nicest parts you could possibly put on a C5 Corvette on it.
Yeah. Didn't he have some one-off HRE wheels or something and a bunch of stuff? I mean, yeah, there was like you said, it was probably comped, but there was a lot of money in that car.
Yeah, absolutely, and all the labor and everything. I mean, it had the full coilover setup, so those were like leaf spring cars, the full coilover suspension setup and the StopTech 6-piston brakes, and the HRE flow forms were like that's probably why I was able to sell it for what I sold it for, because it just made the car look money. I mean, they were just nice and just a beautiful look overall, and I never really liked that. That's probably my least favorite. Well, I don't know. The C3 or the C4 is pretty bad.
Yep.
But it's.
Ooh, Adam's not here. The C4 sucks.
C4 is terrible.
I hate the C4.
C4, yeah.
I've had moments where because the new thing in drifting is Corvettes, because they're starting to get cheap.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And they already have LSs in them, so it's either you buy a fiberglass car that already has the LS in it. It's lightweight. You got to figure out how to put a cage in it, or you buy a 240 that's rusted out. It's got a KA in it. So you got to deal with that. So you got to LS swap it. Then you got to restore the car. So what people have been doing is just spending a little bit more money and buying Corvettes and modifying the chassis and all that. But yeah, I've had moments of like trying to do the real broke drifter thing and get a C4 and build that into a drift car just to be annoying.
Do it.
It's an interesting idea.
They're kind of cool. It's kind of that same like what's that show like Radwood that celebrates all like the good and bad of the 80s.
The 80s.
It's like yeah.
It's bad. Let's not sugarcoat it. It's terrible. Because some of those C4s are really bad. They had like yellow gauges, and I mean instead of having white numbers and hash marks, they're yellow.
Yeah.
And it's yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. That is
a buddy that's got a ZR1, and it's like that. Like you look at it and you're like, what? It looks like you just drove from your trailer park with it needs a Dale Earnhardt 3 on the side. It's outrageous, but it's kind of cool at the same time. Like part of you's like, man, I could move to a trailer. I could do the lifestyle. I could live this necessary. Got a case Bud Light in the back. I mean,
there's a guy locally that has a ZR1, and I mean, credit where it's due on that particular model. That engine's pretty spectacular considering the time frame it came from. It's
that's what I've heard.
Dual overhead cams. I mean, it was just kind of a weird one-off thing that GM came up with Lotus and produced, and it's kind of surprising that it was ever made.
That's right. That was the Lotus combination. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and it was 400 horsepower or something like that. And I mean, I'm sure it was a ripper when it was new. I'm sure it was crazy.
I bet it was. I mean, it's kind of like I said. It's like one of those. I'm sure it would grow on me like the C5 would. To be honest, like by the time I decided to sell this car, I was kind of like, I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna miss like super fast, very affordable track car.
Yeah,
vibe. But yeah, it was a cool car.
I feel like a guy working at Porsche can't really own a Corvette though.
Yeah, aren't you the enemy?
It was pretty great. Yeah, I would rock up to Porsche for the instructor meeting in the morning with my Porsche stuff on and everything, and just rev the motor, banging off the rev.
Yeah, LS1 baby.
All right, what's up?
V8s.
Hey, y'all want to go for a ride? That's pretty much. I mean, I did that a couple of times, and some of the guys working in the shop and stuff got more excited about the Corvette than any of the GT3s or crazy 911 Turbo S's that they're working on. They're like, oh man, it's Corvette. I'm like, yeah, that's right.
Something different, thank God.
Yeah,
changing
exactly.
it up. Yeah. So anyway, that's cool. Well, hey, we need to talk about Apex Pro. I think a lot of people probably don't know what it is that listen. Some people do, but
yeah, I've talked about it. We've
talked about it. We've used the one that we've had, not completely successfully due to our own mechanical ignorance. Let's put it that way.
Stupidity, pure stupidity on my part.
So let's just start from the beginning, I guess. Talk about the product and the problem that you're trying to create a solution for and how it works.
Yeah. So it's basically the whole idea behind Apex Pro is to change the perception of the way people think about data for racing and for motorsports. Is currently is kind of intimidating, I guess, is the best way to describe like a post-session data review session if you didn't kind of learn and grow with the software and get really comfortable with it. So Apex Pro is really just designed to let people know that you can get really accurate data and you can have that accessible in real time in the car and on your phone. And it just drops that barrier to data that you don't have to wire the car up with all these sensors, download the software on your computer, sync it all up, make sure that I spent time on my Accord in World Challenge with a $3,200 Motec dash, and it was great as a dash, but as a data logger, there's really a lot to be desired because the car didn't transmit brake pressure over CAN, so I had to get a brake pressure sensor and wire it into somewhere, tap it into the brake lines, and then I had to buy another $400 software unlock for that. So I was $800 in just to get brake pressure. And that was all I really wanted from the beginning was brake pressure and throttle position, and I couldn't have it. So when we started developing Apex, that was like the problem. I was like, I don't see a lot of people using data stuff at track days other than something on their phone. And I think there are some products out there that are reasonable solutions, but I think most of the time it's still like there's kind of a barrier just to like that interface where you can get really quality data and actually learn from it. And data is so affordable now. It's like if you can afford a set of tires and brakes and build your car, you should invest that extra couple $100 in yourself because it's going to pay dividends by teaching you something, and that's kind of what you're there to do. So it's kind of a matter of priority. But I can literally talk about it all day long because it's like we were talking earlier about like casual conversations. Like the greatest thing about my job is that I just call people that work in the motorsports world that do track days or racing, racing related activities. And I ask them when they're going to the track, what they drive, what kind of events they enjoy going to. And I tell them a little bit about Apex Pro and how it might solve their problems. And it's like a natural conversation. And that's what I do pretty much, 70% of the day is talk to people about what they drive on track and tell them about our product, which is like a very easy transition. So I'm very, very thankful for that. It's cool.
So basically the module itself is it's basically a small black box. It's got an LED strip on the front of it. How does that work when you're driving the car? So basically you mount that in your eye view. Yeah, because it's not a lap timer. Like it doesn't tell you your lap time, but it gives you red or green lights. So so on the device itself, you have the LED strip and you mount it in your peripheral vision kind of line of sight, which usually the lower third of your peripheral, so somewhere on the dash of the car is where you want it, preferably in the area where you're going to spend most of the time looking. So if you're on a road course, a lot of times you're kind of always usually turning one more turn to the right, so you might move it over to the right, but somewhere where your peripherals are going to detect the green or the red lights on the display and the motion as they move across. So the lights move from left to right on the display. The red lights mean the potential of the car's capability at that given moment based on what the device has learned about the grip level. And the green lights are your performance as a percentage of that limit. So red is the limit, green is you. And all you're trying to do is match the two to achieve the optimum grip level. So it's different than anything else. Nothing ever has really been promoted or put out into the motorsports world that does this before, because it's really just a very simple way of showing your performance, and it uses machine learning. So the software in the device and the sensors in the device basically build a model of your car in 9 axes. So think of like a friction circle. If you guys have read any motorsports related books and that sort of thing, it's basically building a 9-axis friction circle model of the car. So it knows that when the car is going uphill, when the tire's compressed into the ground, you have more grip, and vice versa going downhill. So all that stuff's built into the model. So it learns, when the track's cambered up, you have more grip. When the track's off camber and you're turning to the right, the track's cambered and sliding down to the left, you're losing grip. And then it has a 10 hertz GPS in it. And so basically it just takes thousands of measurements every second and inputs that data into the model. And
cross-references that with your current performance. So basically, if you're really confident in a couple of corners on the track and not very confident in some others, the device's ability to understand the limit based on your your limit at that time based on the places where you're more confident will then be projected to the other corners where it'll probably help you more. And then it's all sent to your phone, so you can do data review and stuff on a, frankly, just like really intuitive phone interface. I've been fortunate enough to like use everything in our price point just because I have to for air quotes
research. It's research purposes. I have to go to the track.
This is research. That's right. I got to the racetrack. I got to do more laps. I need a bunch of different data systems just to have just for research,
just to check stuff.
Fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Competition.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not going to slide the car at all. I'm not going to do just for fun. And the interface is just so nice and fluid, and it communicates in just like a very simple way. Some pretty sophisticated data. It's taking a lot of the same measurements that systems that cost twice as much take with the GPS and all the different sensors, and it's really cool. It's very interesting. If you haven't given it a shot, most of our dealers do demos. I would definitely recommend checking out our website and looking up our dealer list to see if they're going to be at the track or at an autocross or something near you, so you can try one before you buy it. But we also have a lot of content on our YouTube channel and that sort of thing that can help make a purchasing decision. But really, I just think it's cool to be a part of something that's trying to change the way people view data. That's really the fun part.
Well, no joke, with the weekend before you emailed us, I had spent the whole weekend basically just researching data loggers, lap timers, just trying to decide what I wanted to spend my money on. And then we got that email from you the next week. I was like, where has this been my whole life? I wasted an entire weekend looking for this product. No joke. So then I went and watched all your YouTube videos on how to set it up, and we have your demo one. I haven't had a chance to utilize it yet because I'm an idiot, which is my own fault.
But the 11th though, you got time trials on the 11th,
August 11th. So
he's going to put it to use.
I'm going to get that one right this time.
Cool,
I'm excited.
We'll hook up, and I'll make sure to help you out as much as I can. Actually, that's probably the second most fun part of my job is I get on a daily basis, I'll get data sessions from people and just pour over it and try and help people get the most out of it, which is tons of fun because I get to think about being at the track when I'm sitting in my office.
Yeah, but this isn't just for specific tracks either. You could use this autocross, you could I guess what do they call that? Freestyle, any track.
Yeah.
Explain how that works a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah. So there's a custom track interface, so you can go in and create courses for anything. So tons of people use it with autocross, use it for autocross applications, hill climb, rally. Recently had a couple people reach out about drifting. Some folks have used it on a go-kart. It's not really specifically designed for a go-kart. There are some things that I would prefer it to be that are different for a go-kart, but that maybe is foreshadowing for the future. But you can use it really with any motorsports activity because you can use the GPS in the device and define a custom course. So I have home to work and home to my girlfriend's house, and I record all that data on the street as well. So you can use it for a variety of applications.
So does that work kind of just you just go to the place and set a pin, or is that pre-programmed? I guess how do you set that up?
Yeah, you can do it a couple different ways. You can do it basically hop onto Google Maps, look up the coordinates for the left side and the right side of the road or the area that you're going on. You can input it manually, or if you're actually physically standing, at an autocross, what you do for an autocross is you take the device. You pair it to the app, and then you go stand kind of by the left side and the right side of the start gate. And just because of the way GPS works, it's good to give it a nice wide berth. So stand 15, 20 feet off from where that cone is, and then do the same thing for the finish at the autocross, and then that'll save it. And then you can actually share that custom track. So if there's someone else there that is either going to be co-driving with you or they're also using an Apex Pro, you can share the custom track with them so they get the exact same coordinates for their custom track. So it's relatively simple. Now the big disclaimer, if you're interested in our product, is that right now we're very heavily invested in the iOS platform, so the Apple platform. Basically, because we're a really small company and you just have to pick your battles. So you can't do both. It's better to do one well than to do both poorly, both iOS and Android.
No, absolutely.
So I hope, yeah.
The only thing I didn't see on the Android was the crew view that we had talked about a couple weeks ago. So I don't have an iPhone, so I don't know what else we're missing out on, but the app seemed fine when I was on there, is what I'm saying.
Seemed fine for me.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's good to hear. It's so we just this is like insider information. We just green lighted some more Android updates. So I actually coach our Android developer. Super cool guy. He's lives in Tennessee, and he does track day stuff too. So I just met him at the track, and he was like, "Hey, I think I can help you with that." And we kind of worked out a deal that worked for us. So I coach him in exchange for some development time. So we're
cool.
Awesome.
We're doing green lighting a lot of new Android projects. So that's been fun. But if you are an iPhone user, I would definitely recommend checking it out. And same thing for the Android. I mean, it's really the only thing that it's missing or doesn't have that the iPhone does are the crew view feature, which is the live streaming of GPS position, lap times, and apex scores, which is really cool. It's kind of like race monitor for a track day or an autocross. You can see other apex users, where their car is, what they're doing in real time from the side of the track. And then it doesn't have some of the depth and the post-session analysis. It doesn't have like the LED light replay. So on the iOS app, you can replay what the lights were showing you while you were on track. So, inevitably you're going to get off the track and be like, those lights were green everywhere. I was really cooking in every corner. And then you can replay it and be like, oh, yep, never mind. So that's helpful in the iOS app, but you can see more detail obviously than that. But so that is yet to come on the Android, and then hopefully we'll be we actually just partnered. This is kind of cool. We just partnered with Track Attack. They're a cloud-based platform, and they have a desktop app that's like a bridge for different data products. So if you have a Motec system or an AIM system or a variety of other systems, you can input your data into their desktop app, and you can compare Motec data with AIM data and stuff that you haven't been able to do in the past. And now Apex Pro is one of their supported hardware platforms. So if you have an Apex, iOS or Android, you can import it into Track Attack and use it on your desktop. So that's really cool. That's exciting. All sorts of fun stuff going on.
Yeah.
So when you're on a track, whether it be one that you've created or is existing in the platform, does the data that it's giving you for, your red light, your potential, does that data need to be, is there a period of time where the unit needs to collect that data before it can give you that information of where it thinks your potential is? How do you get that potential for people to, measure themselves against?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it's kind of similar to using a predictive, you need a base lap for it to build off of, right? So it depends, honestly, the answer is always, well, it depends. But usually it's a couple of laps. And that's because basically the machine learning has like an underlying knowledge and understanding of the inputs and the data that we've like trained it with, if you will, over time. And so basically it just needs data to fill out the model. And the more data it has to fill out and extrapolate the model, the more accurate it becomes. So the more laps you do and the closer to the car's actual limit you get, the more accurately it understands the limit. So if you find the oversteer-understeer balance within a couple of laps, it's going to be able to accurately predict that limit, that oversteer-understeer limit across the whole lap, which is really cool. And conversely, if you kind of slowly creep up to the limit, it won't know as much as soon. But the really cool thing is that it takes so many measurements that, like, if you accidentally jump on the brake too hard in one corner, it's going to understand that, like, yeah, you can brake harder in certain situations and stuff like that. So it's really fun to kind of actually see it while you're in the car and see it go from all green entering turn one, and the next lap you get on the brakes and you see a bunch of red lights, and now it's red, and you're going, wait, hold on a second, it wasn't that like that last time. So it's learned something else. It's really cool.
So it's kind of pushing you towards that limit then over a series of laps.
Yeah. That's the goal, is to kind of let people really, it's the only product that allows you to kind of correlate what you're feeling with something visual. So is this is this acceleration? Are these G forces that I'm feeling in the seat as I'm compressing in the seat, or, as I'm turning the wheel or whatever, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And it kind of confirms or denies your suspicions, right? So it kind of is pushing you to be able to experiment with the limit of the car in places where it thinks you're confident enough to do that, which is really cool. Because I don't know about you guys. This is always a question I like to ask people. But what did you ever have like a light bulb moment either on track or at an autocross or some sort of performance driving event where something happened, like some stimuli, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I get it. And all of a sudden your whole like driving approach changed?
Yeah, I had an instructor yell at me one time that I wasn't going fast enough. That helped a lot.
Gas.
Yeah. I mean, literally, it's it sounds ridiculous, but I had an instructor in a morning session who he didn't know me. He didn't know the car. He came from Spec Miata, and he it's just some random kid that showed up for a track day. Basically, he doesn't know, so he's being fairly timid with me. And then I have a friend of mine that has a lot of track day experience, and he gets in to instruct in the afternoon session, and he's screaming at me like, dude, you are not driving fast enough. And then I was like, okay. But, trusting that he was right, made a lot of difference, to actually get to the point where I can feel the car communicating with me that, okay, we're approaching that edge of our grip, or we need to slow down here or whatever. You kind of have to drive the car at that level to start getting that feedback, and I wasn't getting that feedback because my instructor was kind of limiting my potential, and again, rightfully so. He had no reason not to. Right. I trust at that point I trusted his understanding of my driving ability, but so yeah, I do understand what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So mine was a friend of mine who's done a lot of professional racing, and he's now a coworker of mine at Porsche at the driving school, and I rode with him, and I don't remember what the car was. I rode with him in something on the track. It was a street car, and we went through like a series of corners at Barber Motorsports Park, which is like 15 minutes from our office in Birmingham. So I bring it up a lot because it's like right down the road. But he just the way, like the speed that he carried into a corner that I hadn't been within 25 or 30 miles an hour of that speed in that corner before. And the way I felt the suspension compress, I wasn't even driving the car, just riding along. All of a sudden I was like, oh, that's what you're supposed to do. I get it. I kind of like thought that driving the car that fast was like, I was going to reach this artificial limit that was way lower than it actually was. And so now I'm looking back on it, I'm like, man, I wish I had Apex Pro earlier on, because that would have been really relevant.
Yeah, we talked about some drift applications, and that was a big aha moment for me drifting too, was that I was going too slow. That's a really hard hurdle to get past, I think, for a lot of people, that you're not going fast enough into a corner, because it really seems like you shouldn't be moving very fast. When you start out drifting, the speed coming into a corner is really intimidating, because you're probably going to spin off, and you're amplifying the force of your spin off when you go faster. But in order to make the drift work correctly, you need to be going a certain speed or faster in order to maintain drift. And so that moment when I just said screw it and just threw the car in as hard as I could throw it in there,
then it worked.
It was like, oh, that kind of worked. And I was like, oh, okay, so I just need to keep doing that and work on my angle and work on steering inputs. And
that's awesome.
So yeah,
that's such a tough that barrier to get up to, because it's like it's the same feeling and the same like exact, whether you're on a road course, at an autocross, drifting, whatever. It's like you have to get to that confidence level where you're like, you know what, I'm going to try this, and we're going to see what happens. And I'm pretty sure it's not going to be bad, but I don't really know.
It doesn't feel good at the time, though. Yeah. You're like, that seems like a really bad idea.
This could be really expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I just see dollar signs every time that happens. Oh man, I've hit too many walls for like relapses. Like, oh
God, not again.
Yeah. No, it's like I guess at a certain point you learn to forget it. Like you get the useful information out of like, what I do wrong? All right, forget about it.
Don't do that wrong again.
Yeah, don't do that.
You learned your lesson.
Yep.
Yeah, I had a brake failure in a car massively one time, and I was like, all right, I'm tapping the brakes, leaving pit lane every time now.
Oh, really? You went out on your first corner, you had no brakes?
Yeah. Oh, man, this was not a good day. It's like I'm sure there's probably a lot of people that can relate to this in a lot of ways that might not have anything to do with cars, but my dad has he's about to sell it if anyone's interested. Keep your eyes on Bring a Trailer. He has a Super Performance kit car GT40, Mark 1, the Golf paint scheme. GT40 kit car, which was like his. It's a cool story to hear him talk about it because he got super into sports car racing when he was really young, like growing up in like the late 60s when that car was winning. And in like 1969, he would have been like almost 10 years old, and he got some magazine, old school magazine that had that car on the front, and he was like, that is the car. 10-year-old kid, he's like, that is the car, the Golf livery. So like, I guess it would have been like 2012 or 2013. He finally got to like that financial tipping point in his life where he's like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna buy the car that I've like coveted my entire life. And so he bought the Super Performance replica, the kit car, which is like the Shelby registry version. It's like the most legit of the kit cars. 95% part interchangeability with the original car, all that good stuff. And of course, this thing is like completely true to form. It's 2,300 pounds, stupid light, aluminum monocoque, fully adjustable, crazy, suspension. Looks like a prototype race car when you lift the clamshell off. It's got a crazy fiberglass body, like everything that you'd expect from a GT40, and then 500 horsepower at the wheels. So it's just like crazy power to weight. But we took it to the track once and had massive brake fade. Just like it has the really tiny 15-inch wheels with very little brake breathing. And if you guys are familiar with Barber Motorsports Park at all, there's not a lot of long straightaways. It's a very technical driver's track. It's very rewarding for like transient kind of corners connecting into corners. There's not a lot of what this car was designed for, which was like Le Mans, Daytona, which is like wide open throttle. So after that, we're like, okay, got to watch out for that. And then ended up raffling off a ticket for someone at like a local auction, and a guy paid like $500 to go for a ride in the GT40 with me at Barber. And it benefited like a local charity or something. So we took the car out to the track and we put, really high temp fluid in it and had braided, stainless brake lines on it and race pads. And I was like, how bad can it be? We're only going to do 5 or 6, quick laps. And I'm going to be at like 7 or 8 tenths because this is my dad's, like he
it's
would,
his baby.
Yeah, this is his car. This is the car. It's like and so it was just really like generous of him to let me take it out there in the first place. But so I did like a warm up session and all was fine. I did like 6 or 7 laps, came back in, no problem. Then strapped this guy in, and luckily I told this guy, hey, this is what happens if there's an incident. I kind of walked him through what he should do, like being like, if I tell him this, it's not going to happen. Kind of. If I wear my rain jacket, it's not going to rain.
If you know where the hospital is, you won't need to use it.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Like that's why you look up all the Harbor Freights, when you're going to a town to race. It's like, I know where the closest Harbor Freight is.
You'll be
I'm
fine.
not gonna have to go there.
Everything will be fine.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. And so if we do 3 laps, and I got stuck behind some slower traffic, and I was like, I don't want to sit around in a slow-ish. I don't remember. We were just at like a track day, but it's a really quick car. I mean, just stupid power to weight ratio, and just a lot of tire. It's fast. And it's a workout to drive. It's just total no, like I don't know how these guys actually drove that car like back in the day. I mean, you get out of it and your arms are noodles, and the shifter takes so much force to move. It's ridiculous, and it's got like an open wheel style car pedal box, and all the pedals are stiff. It's just crazy. But we sat on pit lane for like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, waiting for traffic, and then I went back out on track. And at Barber, you go around turns 2 and 3, and you come up over 4. And then the first time you go to the brakes is the hardest braking zone on the track, which in that car is about 120 miles an hour down to 50, 40, Yeah. And I'm taking it easy. I'm like top of 3rd gear. I didn't even upshift to 4th. I'm going maybe 100, just taking it easy on the outlap with a passenger. And I go to the brake pedal and shit goes to the floor. I mean, it just straight to the floor. And I remember at that moment, I'm like, I literally had this exact thought process. I'm like, should I tell this guy we're going to crash? All right, like, should I tell? Because we're definitely going to crash. Should I tell him? And I had enough time to like think about that. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to worry about it. So I just slammed it into second gear, tried to pull the parking brake, and I was going to go head on into the wall, which if you're familiar with that car, like your feet are basically the front crumple zone.
Ooh,
like they're over the front axle. So I just pitched it sideways and got really lucky, skipped over the entire gravel trap. And I wish we didn't have an Apex Pro in the car. Could be part of the reason. That was before that time, but I would be really interested to see what the impact was, because I think it probably was about 65, 70 miles an hour.
Wow.
The wall. Yeah, it was a great day. My dad was watching. It was awesome.
That's a tough one to go home to.
Had a great time. Yeah, but no, he's like, man, it blew my mind. Like that was something that, like, on that day I like logged it away. I'm like, I need to remember how this went down, because my dad is the most, like, he's taught me more than any like I could ever imagine. But he's the most like gracious, kind person ever. He was like, he looked at me and he was like, I know what happened. It's going to be okay. It's not a big deal. Like that was literally what came out of his mouth.
Wow.
And I was like, trying to give him, I was like, I will work for you for the rest of my life. I owe you everything that I have. Here's my firstborn son. You can, whatever you want to do. So yeah, I actually went to Daytona the next weekend and raced. So first of all, I was like, well, we're not going to Daytona because you're going to want to fix the car and all this and all that. And he was just like, no, we're not changing anything. And I was sitting there like, you know what? And because he said that, it taught me more than, like, had he been mad, I would have just gotten mad and it would have been, bad. But I actually learned a lot more from it because of that. Just crazy. So yeah, that's the moral of the story. There is don't wreck your dad's GT40.
Yeah, probably good idea.
May not apply to everyone, but if somebody's dad has a GT40, it's specific to them, and it works well in that case.
But that one, you'll never forget that. Every time you get on track, that's right there.
First thing, yeah. And well, the first thing that came out of my mouth, which, like, I don't know. I did a lot of acting when I was younger. I ended up trying out for, like, The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. If anyone else out there is like my age,
Really?
I tried out for a Disney show. Yeah, I was into that when I was a kid. And so the first thing I said to my dad, like, I'm pretty sure it was after I'm sorry, was, hey, I'm probably one of like a half dozen people that have ever crashed a GT40. Like it's not a whole lot of people have done that.
It's a small group.
Yeah, it's like me and a couple of guys that were testing it or whatever, and I'm sure some have crashed at Goodwood and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, that's a crazy story.
Yeah, it is. That's a good story.
I forget. I think like my life is so normal most days. I'm like, man, and then I think about it like that, and I'm like, I guess that's not that normal.
Not a lot of people have that experience.
Yeah.
Although a GT40 did crash at Marshalltown, of all weird things to happen.
That blue kid car.
Yeah. That was a weird day too. Who knows what happened there? But seen it, oddly enough.
Yep.
Anyway. Any other thoughts? Anything you want to say on the Apex Pro specifically before we wrap up here?
Not in particular. Definitely just apextrackcoach.com is our website. Check us out. And I do all the, like, right now I do all the sales. I do the order fulfillment. I go to the track. I do everything. So if you buy one from us, you will probably get to talk to me. So price of conversations $449, I guess. No, it's an awesome product. It really is. It's the only thing I use when I go to the track now. I physically, like, don't get in the car without it because I just want to know. I'm like, I want to know what my Apex score is. It's changed the whole way I looked at data because I was just pissed off for so long about spending $1 million on. I mean, Motec's great, but not for what I was going for. And for getting that set up. And so now it's like I've solved my own problem to some extent. Luckily, along the way, we figured out there are more people that wanted the same solution. So that's how you make a business, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's been a lot of fun.
ApexTrackCoach.com. You can find you guys on social too, right? You got an Instagram.
Yeah, Apex Digital Driving Coach is our Instagram and Facebook tag. Definitely check us out. And mainly, I just appreciate you guys letting us be a partner and be a part of this because I've always enjoyed. I was going to Road Atlanta a couple weekends ago and listened to probably 4 or 5 of your shows in a row, and have done the same before on road trips. So I appreciate the automotive and motorsports themed programming, because I know a lot of us appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you very
we
much.
appreciate you're going to pick up the news segment moving forward, basically. So we appreciate you reaching out and working with us. And
I'm excited to try it. I've been playing on the app and watched all your YouTube videos, and I was ready. The car wasn't, but I was.
It's coming up though.
So yep, hopefully
you guys will have to connect so he can look at your
tell me
look at your data.
all about it.
That's right. Yeah, we'll lift the skirt up.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
do a little data analysis.
Perfect.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds great, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, Andrew. We'll catch you later. I'll shoot you a text or an email or something tomorrow. I think Robbie and I are going to keep chatting here, but we appreciate you coming on.
Awesome. No, I really appreciate the platform, guys. This is it's exciting, and I hope your listeners find it interesting and maybe solves a problem for them, because I think there's a lot of people out there that just want a simpler solution. They want all the information, but they don't want to spend the time and effort to get it with the current tools. So
absolutely,
hopefully it resonates.
Definitely. I could think of a few listeners right off the top of my head that I think would utilize this right off the bat. So
that's awesome. And as long as they don't crash their dad's GT40, they might be able to afford it.
yeah, they should be fine.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, guys. See you later.
All right. Close the Skype call. Robbie, we were doing this. It's not solo. It's a duo.
It's a duo.
It's a duo. It's not the trio.
Adam's busy.
He's
We're in
very
the
busy.
Kanga Motorsports studio without him.
That's fine. So I will do
Michael's open.
Michael's Adams opener, if you know what I mean, presented by Factor Fabrication. So a couple quick ones. You know how we don't like Porsches and BMWs? That's not what we do here.
Since when?
Exactly. That's my point. So I got to drive Thomas's E30.
Oh.
Yeah, because he's talking. I hope I'm not giving anything away, but he wants to try drifting. So he wanted me to take a look at a couple things on his E30. And
I didn't know anything about this. I know he got it running.
Yeah, he got it running. I got to drive it. Yeah, it's very good. I approve. It's very nice. It's slow, but it's not. His isn't like the top spec.
It's just
it's not an
M30.
M3. It's not anything. But it is the straight six. His is the sedan. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. It's not the convertible. It's not the coupe. But I will say it's really nice to drive, and it makes a really good noise.
It just howls and screams.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
what's he done to that? Because I know I think he's at a limited slip and
yeah. So it's got a factory limited slip, I believe he said. So that should be fine. I don't know that he's done a lot other than get it running. I know he bought it for a song, and he's kind of put it back together.
Yep. I know he asked me like after I did my one drift day and I don't know anything about anything, he asked me, he goes, so, should I do like a hydro e-brake thing? And I was like, probably not. You could probably get away with this. And I sent him a video of a FT86 that he made about that drift button, the drift button. And I was like, you could do this. And he goes, no, you did not send me my own video to describe what you're telling me about.
Bro, you make videos for a living, man.
You
are the authority.
You're the reason I know how to install this. You should know.
I bought one of those. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I bought it.
I put one in the 240. I've never used it. But
I bought it from Justin Pollock, actually.
It's actually it's convenient.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm going to put it in. I don't know if I'll use it.
Honestly, the reason I bought it was because when I did my drift attempt, if you watch the video again, you can see where I do the 360 by mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Just absentmindedly, I reach down and I pull the frickin' e-brake. But then,
really?
And so it's like 3 clicks, maybe 2 clicks. So I mean, it's not.
But it was on.
It's on.
Yeah.
But I also absentmindedly went back to driving and left it on.
Oh yeah.
So had I had the button, it would have just gone
down.
So that was the reason I bought it, because I watched the video going, oh yeah, I left that on for like a lap, like a full lap.
Hot brakes.
Yep.
Excuse me for 1 second. I'm going to take a quick break from the Porsche BMW segment to open a LaCroix. This show has changed. Well, Adam's gone. Oh, what did I do with it?
Oh no!
Where's the
You got one here. Here, we'll just
hold on.
Set that one there.
Since he didn't do the water thing. Oh, spin it to see the label.
Oh, my bad.
There you go. 1010's podcast brought to you by LaCroix. What other BMW news do we have?
I don't have any news about BMW. I could just tell you what it's like to drink a LaCroix. Here, if you want to drink some carbonated water, I can go in the other room and yell flavors.
Hold on,
that's accurate.
This is grapefruit. I just want to make sure it's grapefruit because I can't really tell. Hold on, just real quick.
It's pamplemousse.
Yeah, it's grapefruit.
Oh, that is grapefruit.
It's delicious.
Oh,
it probably doesn't smell like anything.
It kind of smells like grapefruit.
So anyway, BMWs are good. I'm down on some older BMWs.
BMWs are good.
I don't mind
Porsches
that. Porsches are good. Yeah.
What have we done?
Wait, no, I got one. Here, I can change gears and I can be like Adam. You ready? This is my Adam impression.
Okay.
Why is it so hard to get somebody else to change your oil? Why is it such a pain in the ass?
Who are you trying to get to change your oil?
So I bought the now
Genesis.
I'm going back to
when I bought my brand new Genesis.
when I bought the Genesis, right?
Yep.
And it's the whole thing, and they're like, "Sir, we will do your oil changes for whatever period of time, blah blah whatever." So I call them and I say, I want to do my oil change.
Wait. You had to call a human on the phone and talk to them with your voice?
No, you press the button on the mirror, and it calls a person at.
Oh, I thought the app you could just schedule it.
You could do that too, but I was driving, so I called the concierge, and she connected me to. Wow. It'd be funny if it wasn't true.
It's kind of funnier because it is true.
Okay, but anyway, so I did that, and I was talking to the dealership, and I think maybe it's related to the storm damage, but they said they couldn't get me until the 25th to do my oil change, and it's the 1st.
That's too many days.
That's too many days. And I was like, you have to be kidding me, right?
It'll take like 10 minutes.
Well, then she told me it takes about an hour and a half, and I said, I don't think that it does because I haven't had anybody change my oil in the last 6 years.
No,
I know for a fact that it doesn't take that long.
Yeah, I never let anybody change my oil, ever.
Right. So
I don't own fancy cars, though.
I think I'll still be changing my own oil, is the moral of that story.
Kidding. Well, I suppose if, they got to get you in the dealership, and then they got to get you booked in, and then get working on your car, and then by the time you go and get your coffee and crumpets and
No, they were going to give me a car.
You're going to leave for an hour and a half?
Well, I was going to go to work.
Oh, they can't just pick it up from work?
Apparently not.
Kind of.
But they're like, we don't know if we have any spare cars for you, sir, because of the storm damage.
What type of chicken shack are they running?
Real first world problems I was having today.
You poor guy.
I know. I feel discriminated against.
You demand satisfaction.
I demand satisfaction. But in all seriousness, do normal people, like normal, not automotive people, is oil changes the worst? Is it just suck?
Because you could go to, what is that one called? LOF, Lube Oil Filter, or Jiffy Lube. They can get you done in like 3 minutes. It's like a drive-through.
Okay, so that's how you do that.
So for people
now.
that don't care enough to like pick the oil themselves or do it themselves or any of that stuff, you just go through the drive-through oil change. It takes like 5 minutes. I realize there's a lot of people that are going to tell me, no, you don't ever go there. And yeah, I'm right there with you. But
I'm just wondering.
A lot of people do.
My point was, normal people.
Normal people would probably just go to the lube oil filter.
Yeah, because
and it costs like $30 with a coupon.
Yeah, because it's actually more convenient for me to buy my own oil and filter and change it myself than to figure out how to get my car over on the other side of town for them to do it.
Yeah.
For free.
Yeah. I understand.
Okay. I don't know why. It's just
first world problems, I tell you.
Well, yeah, but I just, I think I know too much. That's part of the problem. Yeah, there's no magic that happens in an oil change.
Well, and the worst thing too is I've seen the horror stories of like people bring in their nice cars, like an Audi or whatever, and they have all like the plastic protective stuff, and like they bring it to a Jiffy Lube, and he just takes a Dremel to it and cuts the plastic off, and then gets to the filter, and don't. That's why it's a reason not to.
Well, so the last time I've done an oil change after somebody else has done an oil change, like a shop, they put the filter on way too tight both times. And one time, what did I have to do to one of them? I put a screwdriver through one of them.
I've done that many times.
What did I do to the other one? I think it had like a 17-millimeter square on the end of it. And I think I put a wrench on it and then beat it off with a hammer. I understand phrasing. I do. But I did. I beat
the filter off
with a hammer.
Right off.
With a hammer. And I was not. I was pissed. I was like, this should never be this fucking tight ever.
No. The last time I was at Harbor Freight, they had one of those oil filter plier things for like $7. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get that.
I think I had one of those and I smashed the filter. I should have just shoved the screwdriver through it.
You gotta just keep crushing it until it doesn't crush anymore. Then you take a smaller pliers
and spin it off.
Yeah,
I was mad because your filter should never be that tight. It's ridiculous.
No, you just need a seal.
Just seal it up.
Yep, that's it. But what else have you done?
Well, let me wrap this up.
Oh,
because I gotta continue to pretend being Adam, and then we can move on to not being Adam, right? Because we got to fill the void. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Phrasing, but I totally lost my train of thought there when I was.
You were talking about oil changes.
I was talking about oil. Okay, so anyway, we can be done with that. Don't forget to check out factorfabrication.com. You were over there the other day. What did you say he was doing? He had some like monolith that he was building of a staircase, or what was it?
He has this like huge. Oh God, how do I even describe this? Because I should have taken a picture. It's ridiculous.
It's a piece of spiraled steel, isn't it?
It's a huge piece of steel, like a long piece of steel, like not like an angle iron, but like something like that, in equivalent in size. He's got two of them, and it's going to be a spiral, or not spiral, but like a staircase that goes up and around,
a winding staircase sort of thing,
like you'd see in like a big fancy gala, like when they come down the stairs all fancy,
right?
That's what it looked like. But he had to have some company like special bend it for him
in Chicago, right?
In Chicago, and then ship
it here.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It's massive.
We should ask him what that's for.
I want to see when it's done. He needs to post pictures of that. I just kind of stood there like, do you have like drawings or like renderings so I can picture this? No, it's right here. He points to his head. Come on, man. I need.
You're
renderings.
An engineer. That doesn't help you at all.
I need drawings.
We deal with drawings all the time, too.
You can't describe something to me. I need to see it. But I know it's going to turn out great, and like all this other stuff's awesome. But the engineer in me is like, oh no, you need drawings and dimensions, and oh man,
this makes me uncomfortable. How are we supposed to QC this?
How am I supposed to check the tolerances?
Factorfabrication.com, Factor Fabrication on all the Instagram, social media, all that stuff. Check it out. We'll have to harass him about that project.
Definitely.
Maybe and see if he can give us some
awesome.
more details. Yep. So let's talk about Hot Import Nights first, because that's where you went.
Okay. Yeah, so I went to Hot Import Nights, and hold on, I'm trying to do things at once.
Yeah, he's trying to pull up some pictures.
So I hadn't been there in like 3 years, and I kind of reminded myself why I only go to these like once every 3 years.
Did you listen to Teriyaki Boys for 4 hours the whole way up there?
Yeah, Jess got real annoyed after hour 3.
She left.
She was just she's
bailed out on the freeway.
Let me out. I'll stay at the gas. I'll stay in.
Yeah, this Motel 6 here. This is fine.
Go do your thing. But no, so it was Saturday. So then, like, we didn't get out of town to Saturday till like 10 o'clock. Drove up there. One of the last few people to roll in. Just backed the car off the trailer. Drove straight in. Well, backed up into my spot. And that was it. I was like, so show starts at 4. We got there like, settled in, cleaned up, ready to go at 3.
It doesn't start till 4 p.m.? So it is nights. Sure.
It's not just nights. It's all afternoon, basically. It feels like all afternoon, and then nights. So it goes from the spectators are there from 4 until 11.
Okay.
So you could show up at noon if you wanted, and I showed up about 2:30.
Okay.
And then, by the time I got the car cleaned, it was 3. But it's at Canterbury Park, which is kind of cool because you can go in and watch the horse races. You can go to the casino. You can bet on horse racing. They had a bunch of like wiener dog races that Saturday, so it was kind of fun to watch that. So I mean, that was kind of cool when a car show gets boring after hour 3.
Oh yeah,
or 4.
Yep.
So it didn't take us long, and I just get kind of sick of it. I mean, it's a great show. I mean, there's a couple hundred people there, or a couple hundred cars there. It seemed. Here, I can pull up pictures, but it just.
Well, to that point, I would have been bored at.
Hour 2.
What did I go? Where was it that I went to? I can't even remember the name of it. It shows how in tune I am. When I went down to Kansas, what was the name of that show?
Import Face Off.
Yeah, thank you. I would have been out of stuff to do in a couple hours. But they had drifting and drag racing, so that helped.
Yeah, they had horse racing here, so that kind of helped.
It's not.
But like, if you look at these pictures, and I understand it's terrible for a radio show, but there's only.
There's not that many cars.
Like 150 cars, which is kind of annoying when they give out top 100. I bet I saw 40 of those stickers, 20 of which were vendor cars. So I was like at 10 o'clock, I'm walking around going, there's not 100 of these stickers out. There's no way. And then of course, I'm kind of disgruntled because my car's parked next to a Honda S2000, but there's nothing special about the Honda S2000 except it has a spoon hardtop.
Sure.
That's it. Maybe rims. I don't remember.
JDM, bro.
He was Hot 100.
Sure he was.
I was not. I'm not bitter.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't give a shit. But it's just kind of like, really, what the fuck are you doing here?
You brought an LS Swap 240. They were not pleased with that.
Yeah, probably. But what's kind of funny is I was the only LS there without a turbo.
That's interesting.
Yeah, all the other three were all drag race setups, basically, and had turbos.
Were they actual drag race setups, or were they like for show?
I think they were
setups.
Actual. It's hard. Just the 350Z looked pretty serious, and then I can't remember if this was SS or not.
Oh, the IS, the Lexus IS.
Yeah,
that's pretty sick.
That one's a pretty serious build.
Yeah, that was cool.
But yeah, so I was the only one non-turbo LS. But yeah, I mean, a car show from 4 to 11's kind of long, and I enjoy it because it's nostalgic to me, because I really liked around 2007 when it was really at its peak. I remember going up there when it was in the convention center, and it was like it took up 2 of the convention rooms, I guess is what you would call those. Mm-hmm. And on either end of this rooms, there would be a different stage with concerts all night. So like I saw Asher Roth before he got big with that "I Love College" song.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So in 2007 he was there, and he performed that next year. I think "I Love College" came out, or something along that timeline. But back then it was huge, and you could be there from 4 to 10 and not really get bored. You could go watch the bikini contest or concerts or whatever. Yeah, and there were way more vendors then. So like every year I go to this, I'm nostalgic, thinking it's gonna be 2007 all over again. Yeah, and it's not.
It's never that good.
No. So, I mean, it was fine, but it was kind of funny watching the bikini contest standing next to Jess, and she's looking at me like, "Really? These are your models?" I'm like, "You can get up there if you want."
Yeah,
but she doesn't crave attention, and so yeah. It was just kind of funny. She's sitting there going like, "These are your models, loser. You're into that?"
It's maybe not at its peak anymore. It's not attracting the same talent that it used to, all right?
Making fun of me. But yeah, then it's so awkward because they're doing a bikini contest. Yeah. And this would really get under your skin because the audio engineers either don't exist or are the worst ever. Yeah. So one person, the MC, has a mic that works. No one else does.
Of course not.
So he hands these mics to the models and asks them questions, and they're on, but you can't hear a freaking thing. So it's like... Nothing. Nothing. Like you can't hear a word they're saying. It's just mumbling.
Perfect.
So then they do the whole bikini contest, and they ask these girls all these questions, and they tell them to dance. It's so awkward and uncomfortable. Yeah. Because the crowd's really not big enough for it, and really not into it enough. And unless they're dancing like a stripper, everyone's just like golf clap. It's just awkward.
It's super weird.
And
that makes me uncomfortable just thinking about it.
Yep. And then they haven't changed, because 3 years ago when I went, we stuck around and just watched. I wanted to see who won everything. I wasn't even in the show. I was just there. No, I was in the show, but again, I knew I wasn't going to win anything. Yeah. So we stuck around and watched the trophies and stuff, and they brought all the models back up to announce Miss Hin, and they interviewed them again for a half hour. So from they brought everybody into the building at 10 and said, "Hey, let's get Miss going. Miss Hin, and then we'll do the trophies, and we'll go." They kept feeding them vendor food. Like, well, what do you think of this vendor food? For a half hour. Then they didn't even start giving out trophies till 10:30, and people were like booing and complaining. It was a repeat this year.
They've done it the exact same way for the past 3 years.
Literally the exact same thing. Everyone got called in at 10, interviewed the girls again, announced Miss Hin, and at this point it's like 10:30, and we're supposed to no one's allowed to leave until 11. Mm-hmm. But I'm noticing that everyone's in the building, and all the vendors are starting to bring their food trucks out, and they're letting them leave. Like, I'm just gonna push some hands here and
see if I can get
drive up to the gate and see if they'll let me go. They did. I appreciated that. Yeah. But I mean, it's cool once in a while, but yeah, I just can't do a car show.
I just think it's past its prime a little bit, you know. And there needs to be something else. I think that's why Grid Life works. There just needs to be something else there to kind of make it. It's evolved. It's changed.
I would say so. And I've changed. There's no denying that.
Yeah,
without
definitely.
a doubt. But
the culture around it, I think, has changed though too.
Yeah.
And it's not that. Maybe that works at a certain level. Maybe it continues to work at that level. I just don't think it's going to get any bigger unless they change something significantly about it. I think it makes a lot of sense for Import Face Off to do, the drifting stuff. I think that helps a lot. That brings in a different crowd. So the people that want to do car show, can do the car show scene, can still do it. People can do the drift stuff. You can intermingle or not or whatever you want to do. But straight up car shows, I think, are a struggle.
I could do cars and coffee because I'm there for an hour and a half. I drink my coffee, BS with people I know, and
casual. You come in, you make of it what you want to make of it,
and you just book it,
and that's fine.
But the structured car show where you pay to be in there, and then you sit there for 6 hours. It's just it's taxing, and then it kind of started raining for a while, which didn't really help anything either. But I brought the camera. I'm like, all right. I'm gonna really represent 1010's podcast. I'm gonna get some awesome pictures. I took like an hour's worth of pictures before I said between the crowds, the rain. The only way to get a picture, I would have to kind of get where I wanted to be, get in my position, and then wait, until there was a crowd on either side of me, like Moses, like parting the seas,
and
then
take
just
that shot.
Wait for everyone to just watch me do it, and then I take my shot, and then I look at it, I'm like, I need to move. So then I take a step to like the left or the right and get my spot and do it all over again. I mean, luckily people are relatively polite, but it's just, I can't.
It's hard, man. It's really hard to take pictures of car shows. I'm not a fan of it.
I got super frustrated and super bored because Grid Life completely spoiled me. Those pictures turned out way better than I ever thought they could. I enjoyed taking the pictures, even if I took 3,000 of them that got thrown away, or however many more it was, 5,000 I threw away. I actually enjoyed all that time. But standing there, like, no, that didn't turn out. And then I, take a step to the left.
Yeah.
No, that didn't. My light's off, and then I'm messing with the lighting because it's dark inside, but lights are flashing. So if I get it just right or wrong,
you get a bad exposure. Yeah.
So that wasn't fun.
Yep. I get that.
So I mean, it could be super great. But I don't know. Maybe it's just because I want it to be what it used to be. I just can't do it anymore.
There's times when I think about the way that I perceived cars, in Fast and the Furious in the early years of the franchise.
Yep.
That doesn't seem to exist anymore. And that's kind of sad.
Yeah, like the early 2000s was when this was fun.
Yeah.
At least in my eyes.
And again, maybe it's the people, maybe it's me, maybe
it could be me.
But that I don't know if there was a sense of wonderment or maybe it's a sense of wonderment of not knowing,
right.
Oh, there's something else to discover. Like, wow, I've never seen that before, and this and that. It's so cool, and not seeing, not seeing the shitty, cutting corners things that people do, and just like, wow, this is crazy, and there's something about that time period I'm probably over romanticizing it, but it's really cool. It's a cool memory, but that doesn't, like, you can't find that anymore.
No, I mean, Heidelberg Nuts is trying to repeat what it was, I think.
Yeah,
and it can't.
Yeah, it's gone.
The sponsors,
that era is gone.
The sponsors are gone. The era is gone. I mean, there's a decent number of cars that showed up that would definitely qualify that, because like even the car that really surprised me and won was a Star Wars themed Nissan hardbody pickup.
Yeah.
I think he got hottest Nissan and like some like best of show type award, which is really surprising. I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought for sure it was just going to go to like
18 GTRs,
the GTR with the TV in it. And, it's a very awesome car, but
it's not very interesting.
It's just clean. I mean, nothing special. So the fact that they actually gave this Star Wars themed all the awards I thought it deserved, which is really funny that I would say that about a Star Wars themed car.
That's Star Trek, I think, when I look at that.
Oh, Boba Fett.
It's the Boba Fett from Star Trek.
Oh, and who's going to correct us?
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Darth Vader from Battlestar Galactica, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I was honestly happy to see like the number of like there was different cars there. There was one Bro Dozer, that whatever car that was, that on the 34-inch rims. 34s.
That's insane.
34s. Where do you even get those?
I don't have a clue.
But
what do you have to pay for?
And he had red alligator skin leather seats. But of course, it started raining, so I didn't get any pictures of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I took like 200 pictures and just like, you know what? This sucks. I'm not enjoying myself. I don't care.
It's not fun. Yeah.
So I had a few that turned out though, so I was kind of happy about that. But yeah,
flip side of the coin is though, if they stopped doing that, we'd be all like, man, remember the days you used to be able to go to car shows, man? Everybody would have this crazy crap and giant wheels and
yep,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, and maybe if I never had gone to the good ones, like
back
the early 2000s, maybe these would be still more fun to me. But yeah, I mean, it didn't take long for me to just kind of like, you want to go watch some horse races?
Let's go do something else.
Which is super weird to me that there's 3 stories. Like, we're not even talking about the car show anymore. There's 3 stories of that casino. First story is like food and like the regular casino, like blackjack and poker tournaments going on. Second floor is like for the hoity-toity people with their private...
big money tables?
No. Private rooms to watch the horse races. Like, or not rooms, but seating.
Suites, yep.
And then the third floor is people watching horse racing on TV screens, literally just betting.
Yeah,
like
serious betting, yep.
That's crazy to me. Like, they weren't even watching the races. They were just sitting there like on their score sheets, just throwing money around. It's
a world, man.
I don't get
it's a
that
world
one.
that people live in.
Yeah.
A dangerous one, too.
I think you could actually bet on the wiener dog races.
Fuck yeah, dude. I would have thrown $5 in on the wiener dog races. Why not?
The best part was one was called Lambo. So like, and this one's Lambo, and all the Vikings fans are like, boo! And then they're like, and then Lambo's in 4th. Yeah! Oh, man. But yeah, so people were asking me, like, are you going to go to Ice Cream Cruise? No, dude, I'm car showed out.
That was it. One and done.
I can't. I'm sick of it.
That's bigger. That's a lot bigger.
Ice Cream Cruise?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Ice Cream Cruise would probably be even better just because it has a little less.
There's some racing
BS
and stuff going on. Yeah. I don't know. Never done it. I probably will do it. Not this weekend.
No,
that's how I feel right now. Not this weekend.
Every year I say, yeah, sure. And then I don't.
I just don't want to go this weekend.
Well, then I'll be there the next weekend for racing, so.
Yeah, so that makes sense. You don't want to drive out there 2 weekends in a row.
No.
So, is that it for hot import nights, you think?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I'll probably go again eventually, but I don't know.
Not now.
Not excited.
Give it some time.
Yeah.
Let's move it on to the news, because this is going to be the longest show we've ever made.
That's fine.
Let's just go to the news.
All right.
First one up here, Mercedes AMG, that's a good. I like that brand.
That's a nice brand.
It's BMW, Mercedes, Porsche podcast.
Yeah.
Their AMG GT 4-door brings back the monoblock wheels. You got a picture of it here.
I'm really disappointed Adam's not here, because I would rain on his parade.
Why? Because you don't like them?
They're awful.
I like them because they're kind of vintagey.
Yeah.
I like that part of it.
It's nostalgia.
It's objectively, yeah, it's probably not a great looking wheel. But I like those. I probably wouldn't have been able to remember the name of it anyway. There's a set of like the work wheels, the monoblocks. Yeah, I can't remember what the model is, but I like those a lot. I'm all right with this.
Honestly, I guess I never really like this style, and it's kind of like it's not really a great comparison, but the Avalanche has something similar to this.
A 5-spoke kind of.
Yeah, it's just real shitty.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know if it works super great on that car, which I don't even know what cars Mercedes makes anymore, or Audi or BMW for that matter.
Couldn't tell. Based on the article, it sounds like this is a copy of another car that they make.
So this is the AMG. What's this thing actually
GT
called?
4-door coupe.
It's not called that. You can't call a car.
It's the Mercedes AMG GT 4-door coupe. I'm serious.
Wait. Don't hold on a second.
I'm quite certain that's what it's called. I'm not gonna.
The Mercedes AMG GT 4-door coupe. No, wait. Yes? No.
I'm pretty sure.
Why would you name a car
that's what
that?
It's called.
That's the stupidest name for a car. The problem with this car is it's based on the E-Class.
Yes.
Which is a 4-door.
Yes.
Already. And then based on the E-Class is the CLS, which is already a four-door like the E-Class, but also a coupe like this car. And now there's this car.
Yeah, but this one has the
wheels,
monoblock wheels, and a big grill.
At what point do car manufacturers just make way too many cars? Are we past that point?
I think we're there. I feel like we're there, at least with some companies.
Well, I just don't understand why this car has to exist. They have the CLS, which was available, at least it used to be, in an AMG package.
Right.
Why don't you just have that?
Yeah, then
why do we need
give
this?
us these rims as an option.
Right. That seems like a whole bunch more money in dicking around to make a whole other car that's based on two other cars that you already make. That's the same size.
Yeah.
And has the same number of doors. That's not even including the E-Class Coupe, which is another car that they make based on the E-Class.
Yeah, I'm not into that. Seems ridiculous. I'm not into it. I'm not into the rims. I don't know. I'd rather just have like a normal 5-spoke, especially on a 4-door coupe. So,
yeah,
sorry.
I guess for people that it doesn't work very well as a podcast. They're just basically they're wheels that are more or less solid.
It's a solid wheel with like little cutouts.
Yeah, that make it look
edges.
like a 5-spoke.
But I think people know what a monoblock wheel is.
They're 3,700 euros.
If you paint them black, they're 4,500.
That's too much money. What did they do with the other wheels? Where are the other wheels that these are $4,300?
Yeah, these have to be like 40.
Are these $10,000 wheels? What's going on here? That's insane.
They got to be heavy as shit too.
You would think so.
Unless they're made out of magnesium or something, which I don't know why they
explode.
Would. Yeah, burn a white hot fire.
Let's move on. We have other things that we can be upset about.
Yeah,
Shall
definitely.
we move on? The government has asked you, the people, to stop stepping out of moving cars to dance to Drake's new song. So I had to look this up because I didn't know that this was a thing.
I've seen the articles, hadn't heard the song, had no flipping clue what they were talking about.
What's even the name of the song? I didn't write that down.
Shoot, I had it too.
Okay, so basically the National Transport
feelings.
Safety Board, In My Feelings, has said there's this In My Feelings dance challenge, which had started out somewhat innocently. It was just a famous, I think he was a comedian even, dancing in a street.
To Drake's new song.
Right. And then people started copying that by jumping out of their cars to dance in the street while it's moving and getting hit by cars.
Yeah, I'm shocked this went that way. I'm shocked things went south.
You're shocked that the government's having to tell people not to jump out of moving cars?
This generation, I'm just shocked that something like this would happen. Oh, wait. Am I laying it on thick enough yet?
What if we just tell them...
Keep doing it.
What if we just not stop them? That's what I'm saying.
The challenge is who can do it the fastest.
The challenge is who can not die.
Oh, you're going 10 miles an hour? Ooh.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, get the speed up.
Let's see who can go doing it at like 40.
There's a video of the one girl, she jumps out of the car, had been going 20 miles an hour.
Just
the car was
bam!
moving, and she was gone. When she she disappeared.
I wonder what... yeah, it's just no shit. But yeah, basically, you just search In My Feelings challenge, and it's just news article after news article of somebody jumping out of a car and then just getting leveled by traffic.
That's horrible. That's funny. What somebody should do is like get in with the NTSB and be like, hey, hold on a second, guys. I got an idea. Let's just let it happen. Let's just see what happens.
This won't be a problem in a month.
Well, so the thing that sucks is like the normal guy that's driving down the street that runs over some girl or some guy that was doing something stupid, and then he's got to live with that for the rest of his life.
That's true.
And
it's the innocent person.
Yeah, totally not his fault, but he still ran him over, and so he's got to deal with that guilt or whatever. And I get that. That's pretty messed up. But if you run yourself over with your own car, that seems pretty.
These guys aren't going to be doctors and CEOs. I mean, really. They're jumping out of moving cars. I have a hard time feeling
caring.
bad. Yeah, I really do. Plus, I don't like Drake, so it's this whole thing is... Yeah, I don't... It's the Tide Pod shit all over again. I just don't get it.
It's interesting that we live in a time when people do things that they know, that they should know is really stupid for Instagram.
And I've done really stupid stuff. Like, I was a fan of Jackass and Viva La Bam and all that stuff. I skated. Dangerous stunts. I was all about it.
This is actually they just retweeted it. on this Jalopnik article. It's a girl. It's on her Twitter.
Yep.
Yeah, and she jumps out of this car and she just gets leveled. And the funny thing is she holds on to the door, so the door shuts behind her. So the car just... I want to know what happened to the car.
Oh.
Where's the car?
Gone.
And then her hashtag is... Wait a second. I almost died.
Yeah.
Wait, here, I'm watching one. Oh, shit, that girl was going like 15 miles an hour. Gone.
Yep, now... Well, I was going to say, now we're going to need like stupid child safety locks, but they already exist.
Yeah, that's the world that we live in. I don't know.
Yeah,
we don't have any way to fix that right now, but that's what's going on.
I blame Drake, even though it has nothing to do with it.
Nissan has finally dropped that stupid Juke from the U.S. lineup. Yes, it's gone finally.
Sales were down 48% this year.
It's a lot.
That's embarrassing.
Oh, wait, I was going to look up whatever the hell this thing is. So they replaced it with this Nissan Kick, technically.
Oh, did they really?
Which is, I think...
I don't even know what that is.
I don't think it looks bad.
Nissan Kicks.
It's not a bad-looking thing.
Is it it's Kicks with an S?
Kicks, yeah.
It's plural.
Yeah, but I think you just buy them.
It's just a...
I think you buy them individually, though.
But... No,
I don't think it comes in a pair, is what I'm saying.
It clearly says Kicks, Mr. Dealer.
Yeah, but
I'm here for both of my Kicks.
I think I don't think it's a 2-for-1 special deal. You know, when you buy shoes and two come in a box.
When I go in for Jordans,
like
I get two.
Yeah, no, I get that.
I get my Kicks.
I get that. Well, Nissan has an issue that they need to address.
I'll be honest. This looks like a Rogue mashed with a Juke.
It does look like a Rogue and a Juke together.
Yep.
Wait, what was the smaller one? Or was that the Rogue?
The Rogue.
Isn't there a middle one?
Maxima is the bigger one, and then the Pathfinder is your
no. Maxima's
Armada.
Wait a second. How many SUVs do they make?
Like a bunch, because they got the Juke, the Rogue, now the Kicks, Maxima, not Maxima. What's that called? The other one, not
the
Rogue.
Altima.
No, that's their car. The Murado. It's the bigger Juke or the bigger.
Oh, Murano. That's what I was trying to come up with.
Yeah. So you got the Murano, then you got the Pathfinder, and then you got the Armada. That's too many.
That's still too many. That's less than. So now they make So they make the Kicks.
Yeah. Dumb.
The Rogue Sport, which is apparently different than the Rogue. The Murano, the Pathfinder, the Armada, which is what you said. What's a Rogue? Did you have a Rogue Sport?
No, I had a Rogue with a Sport button.
Hold on a second. Let's see what this Rogue... Oh, it's a 2018 and a half Nissan Rogue Sport. I don't know what
Still got a CVT,
what does it
so
do.
It's
got 141 horsepower, so you know it's sporty.
Fast.
I have no idea why this is a sport.
It's just like the Edge being a sport. It's just got big-ass rims on it. Actually, this doesn't even have that big-ass rims on it. It's just...
I don't understand what's going on here.
It's so you can shred tires at the track.
Shred tires. Yeah, no, you're right. Here's an interesting thing, too. You type in Nissan.com. That is not Nissan's website.
It's Nissan Motors, ain't it?
Yeah, it's Nissan Motors lawsuit against us.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is.
Somebody owns Nissan.com and then Nissan...
Oh, they're coming after him to try to get it. That's pretty funny. Well, they must get a lot of hits on that website.
They have to.
Anyway. So, this is dead. Sales were bad. They apparently sold 1 million of them, though. Not here.
No, they sold like 100,000 last year in Europe.
It's popular in Europe.
It could be popular here if they would have just gave you the options to make it cool.
I agree. The things that you probably wanted, you probably could have gotten in Europe.
Yeah.
Like manual transmissions with everything.
In your Nismo, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what everyone wants is a CVT Nismo edition.
Isn't the... are they doing a Nismo... What is that thing? These car companies make way too many cars. Isn't there a new Nismo, the small thing?
The 370Z?
No. The front-wheel drive car.
Altima?
No, the smaller one than that.
There's nothing smaller than the Altima. Cappuccino?
Yes. That's actually, I want
a Suzuki Cappuccino?
So there's the Sentra.
Oh, the Sentra.
Or was it just an SR package?
Yeah, probably. The Sentra is bigger than the Altima, though.
I don't think
it goes Altima, Sentra, Maxima.
I don't think that's true.
I think it is.
You're lying to me.
No.
So this is the problem with car companies right now.
Ultima's,
none of this shit makes any sense.
Well, no, maybe that's changed. I thought this. It used to be the Altima was smallest, then it was Sentra.
Yeah, I think so.
Because the
Now,
Altima was like the Corolla.
here, I'll tell you, because there's a list here. I'll tell you what their list is. It's the Versa. So there's a Versa.
Yeah, that's
can have a Versa.
That's a piece of junk car.
There's a Versa Note.
What?
Which I assume is the same thing as the Sport package.
No, it's like a Samsung Note versus
There's like
Galaxy.
a Leaf. There's a Leaf.
Yeah.
You can have one of those. Then the Sentra.
Yep.
Then the Ultima. Then the Maxima. That's how they show it on their website.
Well, then I was wrong.
Size-wise.
Yeah.
It's all garbage. All of it's terrible.
There's too many.
That's the long and short of it, is that there's way too many cars.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next thing.
Okay.
The 700 horsepower Brabham. I think I said
Brabham.
that. Brabham. BT62 can be made road legal.
I really just want to talk about this because I found my new favorite car.
It's the Brabham?
Yes.
The Brabham?
This thing is super awesome.
The Broham BT62? I would totally call it the Broham if I owned one.
I think that's fair. You could do stuff to it, like. Well,
Do you want to make it faster? How about making it slower? Making it slower would probably be a great option.
You could just put like stickers and.
Yeah, I modified it to make it slower because it's stupid.
700 horsepower.
How could a car have 700
monster.
horsepower and weigh 2,100 pounds?
Oh gosh,
That's too much and too little at the same time.
It's so great, and it's gorgeous.
It is a good looking car. Did you find a price? I'm sure it's very expensive.
It's 1.2 million euros.
Yeah, whatever. It's just money.
It's €1 million plus something.
So they claim they can make it road legal, but you have to maintain some sort of UK road stamp thing on it.
Yeah, so if you buy it from them as a UK registered vehicle, so they'll ship it to us pagans in Iowa.
Yeah.
So we'll just say it's 1.5 million, and then we can drive it for a year, but then we have to ship it back at their expense to the UK, where they will resell
At our expense.
No, their expense for the first 2 years.
What? They'll pay for that nonsense?
For the first 2 years.
Oh, wow. That's a deal now.
Then you send it back, and then they recertify it under the UK because it can't stay in the United States for more than 12 months. It's kind of like the show and display thing. You can have a GTR here for a year, but then it can't stay here. It has to go back. Otherwise, it's illegal.
Well, okay. So I understand what they're trying to do here. They found this loophole, and it seems to work everywhere, it sounds like. What I would wonder about is if they chose like a company to put the car back together, and they shipped the drivetrain and the car separately, and then that company put it together and you registered it as a kit car.
No, I don't think I think it's registered. The way it sounded, it was registered in the UK.
Yeah, but I'm saying I wonder if you could just skip all that bullshit. Have them ship the car in two pieces, have someone here that they choose put it together, and then have it registered as it's of course in Iowa. I wonder if you could get it over here and say, I built this in my garage, and they go,
sure,
yeah, okay. And
you could in Florida for sure.
Yeah, I think you could get around here. I think you could probably get around it
for how few of them there are, and unless you want it as like a show and display piece where it has to be an official Brabham car.
Yeah,
I think you. And maybe they're like the Sin R1, is that what's called?
Yeah.
Where they don't want that, which I could still
I understand that they would not want that.
Especially Brabham.
Yeah.
But no, I would, if I had the means, this is
where
car,
your money would
man.
go?
This is it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Green and gold, I don't care.
I would, if I was registering it as a kit car, I would probably have a moment where I spent $1.5 million on a kit car, and I could have bought that Factory 5 GT, whatever it is.
GTM for like done, like 700 horsepower for 150.
Yeah, and it would be really nice at 150. So literally a tenth, like probably under 100. Like even if you bought all new parts, I bet you could put a GTM together for $100,000. Brand new, like LS9, all that stuff.
Yeah, my understanding is that the amount of work going into the body kit and stuff, making it fit good. That's where your $100,000
Come on,
goes.
Factory 5. They don't have that together? They're like the biggest kit car company.
They are, but it doesn't mean it's not a lot of work to make it pretty.
That's where it falls. That's where it falls off for me.
It's still a fiberglass mold.
That's where it falls down for me, because if I'm going to spend...
It's, what, $20,000?
I think it's $25,000. Let's see. So the kit starts at $25,000. If I'm going to spend $25,000 on a car that has no drivetrain, so the tube chassis with some panels on it, basically, I want that stuff to fit pretty well.
Yeah, I think
not perfect.
No, I understand.
But that's the one thing. Okay, I don't have to mess with that. I'll put it together, paint it, it's done.
Yeah, that's I don't.
Yeah, 25 grand, no paint. That's the other problem,
that doesn't
too.
exist. I don't think, especially on that car. It might have gotten better over the years as they've developed it. But there was somebody that worked for a company that basically built those.
And they said they had to finesse them to make them work.
There was specific things he knew exactly what he had to fix every single time.
To be fair, this kit car for them is very old. It's probably one of the oldest kits that they make that's, not something else.
Yeah.
It's been around for a long time. I remember, I think even in high school, I was interested in this car. But, I'm looking at it again, and I am thinking that would be a good idea.
Don't get me wrong. Kit car is on my bucket list, without a doubt. But, yeah, the one I like has lawsuits against them because they don't deliver, apparently.
Which one's that?
DDR Motorsport.
Oh, they're in trouble because they took some money and...
Since forever. I mean, there's like a website dedicated to their lawsuits. But I still, if I had the option, I'd think about it.
Yeah, dude. You should look at you should look at this GTM website. This is not good. This is not a good thing to be looking at.
If you sell,
if I sold everything,
you could have like the.
I could get the kit bought.
Oh, you want to know something really bad?
What?
There's one that got wrecked. Someone went off track with their GTM.
Yeah,
it's on eBay right now for $35.
35 grand.
Uh-huh.
It's all together, but it needs new panels.
Basically.
Which I'm sure you could get. Absolutely, if you call them and say, I need some panels.
But it's a salvage titled kit car. So I think that
is weird.
Yeah, I know.
That's a thing?
I guess.
Well, I suppose they want it off the road till it's the safety stuff's fixed, turn signals, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I suppose that makes sense.
Yeah, no, and I saw the price tag on that. I was like, man, you could fix that.
When they're together and people sell them, they're expensive.
Oh, yeah.
They're like 70 grand.
The one that I saw going down the interstate that just blew by me a couple weeks ago. Man, that looked good. Looked real good. All black on black.
Yeah, I'm down for that. I still like that Vader body kit, even though I know it's objectively probably terrible, but for some reason I like it.
Hey, it's your car.
It is my car.
It could be your car.
It could be my car. I'll even put the Lambo doors on it and everything.
I saw a Pontiac Solstice with Lambo doors yesterday.
A Solstice? Why didn't he buy a Sky?
Bone stock Solstice.
Did you ask him?
I didn't stop.
You should have been like, hey man, why didn't you buy a Sky?
Yeah, you clearly care about looks because you put
those Lambo doors and you bought this stupid terrible looking car.
Solstice,
this is ridiculous.
Maybe you couldn't find a Sky.
Probably not, because they're super popular. I mean, they're worth quite a bit more.
They're way better than the Solstice.
You can get a GXP all day for like $4,000 or $5,000. Nobody even gives a shit. Sky, however, 50, 60 grand.
We're getting a phone call right now from Adam.
The series, you could like time it. You could mark it, the time markers on the show, and then you could go to our chat thread and you could see the, hey fucker, hey fucker. Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, grab him.
Yeah, it's cool. I dig it.
It's carbon fiber.
It works out well for them. Hopefully they can sell some cars. The other thing I wonder, if they're a small manufacturer, I wonder what that law is in the U.S. Maybe they could
probably
step through that.
They're not making very many of them.
Yeah, they're making less than 150 or 250 or whatever it was. Or maybe you have to have a base here. I don't know. But maybe they could put a man in a suit in an office space that's 600 square feet and be like, hey, sell one car here, we'll be all right, bud.
Yep.
Okay. Can do.
Yeah,
and then they could register them here and then have to deal with all that.
Yep. Yeah, then I think you're on your own after 2 years, so you would have to figure out a way to register it.
That would suck.
That would be a pain.
I could see that being absolutely stupidly expensive.
A stupid nightmare.
But is that it for news?
I think so.
Is there anything else you want to say while Adam's not here?
No.
Not really?
I'll save it to say it to his face.
Say it to his face next week?
Yeah.
No, not next week. We are off next week.
Mr. Jet Setting
vacation.
Guy.
It's not getting better. It's not a good look for me. But yeah, I'm on vacation next week.
Where are you going?
I'm going to the lake house.
Oh, that's not so bad. You're not jet setting.
No, I'm not jet setting. No, I'm going to the lake house.
Just going to family vacation or just you?
Well, I'm meeting up with people at different places because we're going to Formula Drift.
Oh, cool.
And then I'm going to Kansas City.
Oh man,
for a while. So
that'll be fun.
Yeah, no, it'll be a good vacation. I think
it'd be better if you were jet setting, so we could talk about it.
We'll talk about it off the air.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, it's not that exciting, but it doesn't.
No one else needs to know.
It's the Porsche, BMW, Mercedes podcast all over again. That's what I'm saying. It's not a good look for me personally.
Yeah, it's all good.
But anyway, all right, we'll catch you guys in 2 weeks.